building. And we saw that about 10 minutes or so ago. They were walking in a defensive posture, clearly walking into a dangerous situation. You take a look at the cars there that are lined up on the street, and you know that those are parents who have kids at the school who want to make sure that their kids are okay. But parents are being kept at a distance right now. And I'm sure that they're working on trying to get information and allow those students who have been safely evacuated to the football field area to be able to communicate with their moms and dads, who are very, very nervous right now.
And we're just getting word that that helicopter that took off from the scene maybe about 10-15 minutes ago with a person loaded onto the stretcher, that it has just landed at Grady Memorial Hospital. So we are just learning that into the newsroom, brand new information. We do have our own Chelsea Beimfor, who is there or headed to that scene to see what she can find out there from Grady Memorial Hospital. But again, in just the past 15 minutes or so, we saw one person being taken and airlifted there in a medic helicopter and headed to Grady Memorial Hospital. And we have just learned that that person has, they have now landed there at Grady Memorial.
This is a shot from a little while ago of that helicopter taking off from the Apalachee High School campus on its way, as we now know, to Grady. Grady, of course, is a level 1 trauma center here in the metro, one of a very few number of them here. So when there is someone who needs level 1 trauma, which is the most serious type of trauma care that is required, they are typically taken to Grady Memorial Hospital. And so the person who was airlifted evidently was badly injured, enough so that they needed to go to a level 1 trauma center.
Yeah, and that we can confirm, at least one person that was airlifted from Apalachee High School there. We don't know what those injuries look like. We don't know what they could be. We're waiting to get that word from officials, but that one person has been airlifted from the high school to Grady Memorial Hospital. And Rick, we're still watching this here, and you're seeing several cars that appear to be lined up there to get into the entrance of the school. There's a lot of traffic in that area. Many parents likely trying to get to their children, many parents likely in contact with their children. And right now from First Alert Chopper, you're just seeing that area that shows traffic seemingly backed up in all areas over there, given this other road right here that may not seem like it has as much. So right now we are waiting to hear from law enforcement about what's going on. But again, if you're just joining us, we can tell you that at least one person has been airlifted from Apalachee High School. And we're also seeing other agencies that appear to be pulling up to the scene right now, Rick.
That's right. We have, as we've told you, we have a number of crews heading to the scene right now. One of them is Atlanta News First Adam Murphy, who is joining us now on the phone as he is on his way to the scene. Adam, where are you? And I know you've got a lot of law enforcement sources in this community here. What have you been able to learn? What can you tell us?
Rick, we are on 316 headed towards Winder, kind of in the direction of Athens. We just merged onto 316 going that direction away from Interstate 85. So let me give you a little perspective here as far as where we are. You can see us riding up 316 right now. We are 19 minutes away from the school. We hope to gather more information when we get there. I've been monitoring some of that aerial footage that you all have been talking about. You can see the area around the school is crawling with law enforcement officers at this time. And I've been also looking at some of the social media posting online to just get a sense or try to gather any information that I could. And really looking online, I've noticed a number of people talking about what's happened today at Apalachee High School, talking about this shooting. And then, of course, many saying that they would like all the prayers possible right now from students, teachers, and parents. But it's a sad.
Adam Murphy traveling right now. The cell phone went out with Adam. We'll get him back. He is on his way. And yes, I think that people all over the metro are praying right now for this community, for this high school, and for the first responders who have shown up to try to bring this situation to an end without any further violence or any further injury to anyone involved. But you can see there the police, law enforcement there on the scene, in what seems to be still perhaps an active situation, and you can sort of gauge by the behavior of law enforcement, the urgency. Obviously, he was running towards the building, and the amount of bravery, we just have to say, on the part of law enforcement, those who would run towards the scene of an emergency like this, rather than walking away to a safe spot. We can't say enough about that, and give our thanks to those who would put their own lives in jeopardy in order to help others.
Yeah, and Rick, it's unfortunate, but we've seen scenes like this. We've seen students be evacuated because of a threat inside of the school. We've seen the parents, like you see here on your screen, the cell phone video showing you parents trying to get in contact with their children just to make sure they're okay. We've seen the aerial shots of schools where we're flying over them, just trying to gather more details. So it's quite unfortunate that this is something that our country is used to, but it's something that is just quite disturbing. But no matter how many times we see things like this, it almost gives you chills because you just want to hope for the best and hope that everybody is okay.
You know, we talk so much about safety at schools,
Yes,
and safety measures that are put in place. We had an interview just within the last 24 hours with the superintendent of Cobb County Schools, Chris Ragsdale, who talked to us about some of the safety improvements and measures that have been put in place at schools and school buildings, district buildings in Cobb County. In fact, some of those safety measures he didn't even want to talk to us about publicly because he didn't want anyone who might have bad intentions to know exactly what kind of safety measures have been taken. But we do know that in a lot of different schools in our area, different kinds of glass, bulletproof glass has been installed at entryway, at various entryways. We know that there are new systems when it comes to doors locking, being able to automatically lock and close off different entrances to school buildings in the event of an emergency. We know that there are school districts where teachers wear emergency buttons, where they're able to literally press a button to notify folks that there is some type of emergency unfolding. And so schools do what they can to beef up security and protect themselves, prevent these types of things from happening. But at the end of the day, it seems as though no system is foolproof, and that there is always the potential for someone who wishes to do harm to be able to get past whatever security measures have been put in place. We don't know exactly what's happened here. We don't know exactly what's gone on inside that building or what caused the injuries of the person who's been airlifted away from the school and taken to Grady Memorial. But we do know that something very bad has happened as we take a look at the football field where they were scheduled to have a home game this coming Friday night. And now it's being used as an evacuation location for students and staff there just by the side of the building.
and we do have a woman who has a grandson that attends Apalachee High School there in Barrow County. Becky is joining us on the phone right now. Becky, obviously we're thinking of your grandson who is there at the high school. What are you able to tell us? Have you been in contact with him, and what is he seeing?
Well, Becky is it is her grandson, but I am her neighbor across the street.
Okay.
And she pointed out that my neighbor next door, who used to go to Apalachee and still has friends there, she had a little bit more information, so that's why I called back. She said the friend told her, that's a student there, that the football coach and 2 teachers were shot and killed, and there were others injured that she did not know about, but she did know that those 3 fatalities plus the shooter. She doesn't know, her friend did not know if he shot himself or if a law enforcement did it.
All right, I just want to jump in here real fast because I just want our viewers to know.
I thought I would just pass that along.
Yep, we appreciate that. We have not been able to confirm that information. Atlanta News First has not been able to confirm any of those details that you've just reported, but we do appreciate you passing along. Talk to us about this high school. Obviously, you're from this area, you live nearby. This must be very, very distressing to even know that there's something terrible unfolding so close by.
Oh, yes. We had been hearing sirens for at least an hour and a half. And I said, something has got to be going on bad. So my neighbor across the street is the one who called me and told me that she had just heard from her grandson. He was okay. They were evacuating all the students into the football stadium. And she's en route now to go get him. They're not letting them leave, but she says she's going to go get him anyway. So I just thought I would pass that along because my neighbor had a little bit more information than Becky did. And so I'm assuming that is correct information according to her friend.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. We want to thank you for calling us with that information. And we are keeping you and your entire community in our thoughts and prayers. But again, those details that she shared are not details that Atlanta News First is able to confirm. We do not know exactly what's happened, the condition of people who have been injured here, how many have been injured and exactly who they are. That is information that we are working to confirm with our sources. And when we do learn that and we feel confident about that, we will pass it along. But not until then.
Yeah, and obviously this has been a very fluid situation, so there could be a lot of reports of different things out there that are floating around. But again, until we are able to confirm it with law enforcement and through our sources, we will not share that with you, again, until we are able to confirm it. But what we can tell you, if you are just tuning in right now at Apalachee High School, there seems to be a heavy police presence where we can tell you that at least one person has been airlifted to Grady Memorial Hospital. There are several students, hundreds of students that have evacuated from the school, and they are now at what we're calling perhaps the safe spot there at the school right now. And this is on the football field. There's many of them in the bleachers, several of them standing away from the bleachers, several parents now arriving to that school. And you just heard from one of the women that we just talked to who lives in the area, and she was saying that she has heard sirens there for more than an hour, about an hour and a half. So that gives you an idea of just how many dozens of law enforcement we are seeing out there and official cruisers and whatnot that appear to be there on the scene.
We are now learning that parents are being allowed to pick up their students at the school. So that is going to be a relief for a lot of people right now. Parents who have been wanting to get their hands on their kids will soon be able to do that. We've seen cars lined up, trying to get to the school grounds and get closer to the buildings. And now we have been told that the students are being cleared and that parents are being allowed to come and gather their children.
And we're watching this picture closely because we are seeing what appears to be law enforcement, some of which who are armed, some of which who have made their way into the school. Some seem to be getting back into their cruisers right now, still with their gear. So we're waiting to see. It appears a couple of those cruisers have been taking off from the site. That doesn't mean that things are resolved. It could mean that they know something that we don't know regarding where they're going and maybe another location that they're going to. But again, it appears that several law enforcement personnel seem to be taking off from the school or moving to a different part of the school. So we're working to figure out what is going on there. And some of them seem to be moving rather quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. We're watching these images with you, trying not wanting to speculate on what we're looking at, but just trying to sort of use our experience in covering these types of events and, quite frankly, just use our common sense to try to give you a sense of what's happening here at Apalachee High School. Again, this is in Winder, about an hour or so northeast of Atlanta. It's just west of Athens. One person has been airlifted. We did see what appeared to be another person who was being attended to there on the scene. That person was not being put into an ambulance. There was not an attempt to remove them from the area, so we are hopeful that they're okay. But again, we are seeing this scene unfold now where parents have been told that they are allowed to come and get their students, and you can see the line of cars pulling up and trying to get to as close to the campus as they can. We saw hundreds and hundreds of students. This is a student body of about 1,900. We've seen hundreds of them taken to the football field just to the side of the school building there. Now it does look like these law enforcement officers that we saw perhaps are going to be used to direct traffic. And maybe that's where they were going to position themselves in order to make it easier for people to get to be reunited with their children.
And now that we've seen more parents arrive there, and I don't know if you've noticed the same thing, Rick, but in just the past 5 minutes or so, we've seen that line of cars grow tremendously. Obviously, a lot of parents trying to get there to the scene just to check in on their children and be reunited with their children. Now that we know that many of them have been evacuated. And again, we're taking a look at a video from about 30 minutes ago where one person was airlifted from Apalachee High School to Grady Memorial Hospital, which is a level 1 trauma center. And Rick, I think you put it quite well. Usually when somebody is airlifted or when they're going to Grady, which is a level 1 trauma center, that gives us an idea of what could be the severity of that injury. We have not been able to confirm who was loaded onto that helicopter or what injuries they may be sustaining. But regardless, this is just giving us an idea of what might be going on here.
We see that law enforcement vehicles that are really just sort of streaming now away from the scene, driving at a pretty fast clip on these local highways. And we are obviously very interested in knowing where they're going and what they're doing. But we're working to get more information. What we have not seen, interestingly, is are any other victims, anybody injured in any way, being transported. So that is something that we have noticed. Aside from that helicopter, that airvac, we haven't seen anybody else loaded into an ambulance or loaded onto a chopper and taken away from the scene. So, you can sort of read that for whatever it's worth, but only one person has been removed from the scene and taken to Grady Memorial Hospital. And there's the football field where everyone has been sent to sort of hang tight and wait for more instruction, wait for their parents to come and get them. You can only imagine the feelings, the anxiety, and the distress on the part of those kids and faculty members who are there right now, wondering exactly what has gone on and what has happened here and what is going to happen next.
And we saw police officers move into what we believe is the main entrance of the school. That's probably been about 20 minutes ago. We didn't see anybody come out of the school, but we did see several people jumping into, or several police officers, I should say, jumping into their cruisers and then taking off and leaving away from the school. Obviously, if you're looking here, you can still see that there are several police cruisers there, several ambulances as well that are there. So it does lead us to believe that things are still quite active here. But right now, we are trying to figure out where were those officers that decided to leave and they took off and they were moving at a pretty fast pace, what it looked like there on the road. So we're trying to figure that out.
We are just getting a statement from Governor Kemp, and I can read this to you. He says, I have directed all available state resources to respond to the incident at Apalachee High School and urge all Georgians to join my family in praying for the safety of those in our classrooms, both in Barrow County and across the state. We will continue to work with local, state, and federal partners as we gather information and further respond to this situation. That coming from Governor Kemp, who's just posted that onto the social media platform X. We also have gotten some information here that may be from someone at the school. Looking at our internal site here, Apalachee High School, AHS families. Apalachee High School is currently in a hard lockdown after reports of gunfire. Again, I'd love to get some information on exactly where that statement is from. I'm looking at it here.
And it appears,
That is unconfirmed, but that is one of the reports that we are hearing right now.
Yeah, and it originally it appears, and producers, can you guys let us know, because did this come from the high school? Because it appears that the high school was sharing this to parents and to families, saying, okay, please do not attempt to come to the school, but that has since changed in just the past 10 minutes or so, where they are allowing now students to be reunited with their families so parents can come to get their children and then take them from there.
We heard in the statement from Governor Kemp that federal partners are also involved, and we've been able to confirm that the FBI is on the scene. And so that would typically happen in a situation like this, where there is an incident at a large school, some type of violent incident of some kind. We don't know exactly what kind of incident this is, but we're working on that. We also have a number of crews on their way. We spoke with Adam Murphy, who was about 15 minutes or so from the high school when we spoke with him. That seems to be maybe about 10 or 15 minutes or so ago. So perhaps he is getting closer now and will soon be able to report some more information. But again, this is the entrance to the school that we saw law enforcement go into. Now it looks as though some of these first responders are coming out and leaving the school at this point.
And Rick, for people who are watching, and there may be parents who are saying, I can't get to my child right now, it is important to know that we are learning that buses are going to run for those students who need transportation to get home. So if your child happens to be there, and hopefully you've been able to be in contact with them, but the buses are going to run so that those kids will be able to get home.
We're taking a look at live pictures right now from the chopper as we are coming up on the noon hour here on this Wednesday morning, where there has been some type of violent incident that has taken place at one of our metro high schools, Apalachee High School in Winder in Barrow County. There is a large police presence. We have watched as someone has been airlifted from the scene. We've later learned that person was taken to Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. We have seen hundreds of students and faculty members evacuated from the building and taken to a nearby football field where they are standing by. We know that parents are anxiously awaiting word on their children, wanting to reconnect with their children, and we are waiting for information that we can share with you on exactly how that is going to take place. But right now we're seeing first responders there with gurneys and preparing themselves perhaps for any more people who have been injured in all of this. But we have not really seen anybody brought out of the school. And so that is something that we're waiting to learn more about, as far as how many people have been impacted by this, how many people have been wounded. We don't know, but there are a lot of reports, a lot of rumors that are circulating right now on social media. We're staying away from reporting anything to you until we are able to confirm it with our trusted sources. And so right now, what we can tell you is just simply that there has been an incident at the school that has required a large police presence. And the governor has responded saying and encouraging all Georgians to please join his family in praying for the safety of those in the classrooms, both in Barrow County and across the state of Georgia. This is obviously something that is being monitored, not just in Barrow County, but in schools all over the state. This is we're just about a month or so into the start of a brand new school year, a year that so many people have high hopes for, and wanting a fresh and clean start to a new, happy and productive school year. But sadly enough, at this particular school, things have not gotten off to a good start as we are watching and waiting for word on exactly what has taken place today at Apalachee High School, which is about an hour or so northwest of Atlanta. It's not far northeast of Atlanta, not far from Athens. And we have heard from members of the community that sirens have been streaming through for the last hour or so. But now it appears as though there is no new law enforcement arriving at the scene. We are simply waiting for word on exactly what has gone down, how many people have been impacted by this, and what exactly happened. The football field that you can see on the left, where the Wildcats have a home game scheduled for this Friday night, is where students have been evacuated to. Students and staff members, hundreds of them standing by, obviously distressed, very, very upset at what has gone down, and awaiting word, like the rest of us, for exactly what has happened. We have a number of crews on their way to get you information that we can report to you, that we can confirm. We are working to do that right now. As we take a look at this school, beautiful campus in Barrow County, about 1,900 students. We are going to pause for a moment and restart our coverage at the top of the hour as we follow this breaking news out of Winder in Barrow County, Georgia, right here in Metro Atlanta.
Atlanta News First starts now with breaking news.
And we are following breaking news right now in Barrow County, where a heavy police presence is at Apalachee High School in Winder.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon to you all. It has just been a chaotic afternoon, certainly for parents who are still not quite sure what's going on there. But we have viewer video just into the Atlanta News First newsroom. We want to show you exactly what it's looking like right now at the scene. Very heavy police presence. This is a live look from the First Alert chopper, and you can see there are numerous first responder personnel vehicles on scene. We can tell you we've been live at the scene for quite some time now, and there is a steady stream of presumably parents who are either there or headed to the school right now. There are no confirmed reports of what has happened. We want to be very clear about that because there are a lot of unconfirmed reports. The rumor mill is going on social media right now, and no law enforcement personnel has confirmed what exactly has happened. We do know someone has been airlifted away from the school to Grady Memorial Hospital. We do know there are first responders on scene that have been checking out certain people who are there, perhaps students, perhaps teachers. Again, it is unconfirmed at this point. We're just telling you what we have seen from First Alert Chopper and what we've been showing you. If you'd like to continue watching along with us, a lot of people still trying to make some sense of what's going on right now, but it's certainly a very serious, very chaotic scene right now, Rick.
And Lana, we've been paying very close attention to the body language of the first responders on the scene.
Yeah.
At one point, about 25, 30 minutes or so ago, we saw a group of law enforcement, heavily armed, walking in formation, making their way to the front entrance of the building. We have not learned what exactly they were entering that building for, what they were doing. We also have not seen them, at least not obviously to our ability to see, have not seen them exit the building right now. All we've been able to see is one person airlifted away, another person who looked like he or she had been wounded and was off to the side. And then we have the scene from the high school football field, where the students have been evacuated to, students and faculty brought over there in a scene that we have seen play out in high schools and schools around the country. And now it's happening here, right here in Metro Atlanta, where there has been some type of violent incident at Apalachee High School in Barrow County, in Winder. About 1,900 students on this campus on a Wednesday morning, and something disrupted their school day in a big way. And we are still waiting to confirm exactly what has gone down and how many people have been injured.
Rick, just into the newsroom right now. We just got a report from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office, so we can tell you exactly what's going on here right now. There has been a shooting at Apalachee High School. Authorities are currently on the scene, as you can see there. This is located at 940 Heyman Morris Road. We're told at approximately 10:23 a.m., officers from multiple law enforcement agencies and fire and EMS personnel were dispatched to this high school in reference to a reported active shooting. At the time of the release, one suspect is in custody. Casualties have been reported. However, details and the number of them or their conditions are still not available right now. It is still an ongoing situation. And as you can see in the video, all of the students have been evacuated to the stadium there to stay safe. As far as we've been able to see, it does not appear that parents have been allowed on campus. It appears that law enforcement have been allowing other law enforcement vehicles to come onto the property, but it seems that they've been holding everybody else at bay.
Atlanta News First Adam Murphy is on his way, and for all I know, he has arrived at the scene right now, and he's joining us live. And Adam, we're finally getting some information about what has gone down there, and you are surrounded, I'm sure, by parents who are trying to get to the campus to gather their children.
Hi there, Rick. I just arrived a few minutes ago, and it's a very active and intense scene right now. I mean, I've never seen so many law enforcement vehicles. I mean, we have rescue units here from Hall County, officers from Gwinnett County, State Patrol, and so on. And there are so many law enforcement vehicles surrounding the front of the school. That's where we are right now. You can see Apalachee High School there in the distance and all the blue lights surrounding the building. We have noticed some parents, or what appear to be parents, administrators, kind of rushing around, trying to find their family members. Look at this right here. We have Georgia State Patrol coming out. And you can just see from the intensity of those two law enforcement officers leaving the scene that this is still very active. And we don't know, what's going on right now because we just got here. We don't know if they're still actively looking for perhaps a gunman or someone that may have caused, harm at this school. But I can tell you, I've seen a lot of parents that seem to be running up to try to find their children. We haven't had a chance to speak with any of them yet. We pulled up and like I said, we've kind of anchored down here and we're trying to gather more information. But again, I did spot 2 ambulances rushing away from the scene within the last 5 minutes. So again, very active. The investigation is going on. We have an aerial view or picture here for you as well from above. And this will give you a sense of how many law enforcement vehicles are here. And then of course the students that have been escorted back to the stadium area. They've been removed from the building and taken back to a safe spot there, as you guys have talked about, back on the back of the property there where the football stadium is. And again, back out here front now at the front of the school. One more look at all of the law enforcement vehicles. I want to take you to the right here real quick, and you'll see, as far as the eye can see, really all the blue lights lined up. Some people running up here to the scene. I don't know yet at this point if these are parents, but an emotional scene, a very scary situation outside Apalachee High School in Barrow County. We're going to try to gather more details for you, and as soon as we get some new information, we'll share that with you guys.
All right, Adam, I just want to repeat for our viewers the information that we've gotten within the last couple of minutes, confirmed for us from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office. This is a statement that they have just released within the last couple of minutes, that at approximately 10:23, officers from multiple law enforcement agencies and fire EMS personnel were dispatched to the scene of Apalachee High School in reference to a reported active shooting. At the time of this release, which was again just put out, 1 suspect is in custody. Casualties have been reported. However, details on the number or their conditions is not available at this time. This is an ongoing situation. And Adam, since we've gotten on the air, we did see 1 injured person airlifted onto a helicopter and taken away. We later learned to Grady Memorial Hospital. I wonder if you've been able to see anyone else. You mentioned those ambulances. Was it clear to you at all that they had anybody in them, that there were any patients in those ambulances?
Well, Rick, I can tell you their lights and sirens were activated and they rushed away from the property, from the school building. So, for all intents and purposes, that would indicate to me that they were leaving in an emergency situation. So again, like you said, the information is trickling in, so we're not able to confirm whether anyone was in those 2 ambulances, but based on what I saw and based on the energy of those vehicles with their lights and sirens leaving the school and rushing away from the school, like I said, one would presume there were some in there. So it's quite possible that there could be multiple injuries. We don't know the extent, and we don't know how many, but we hope to gather that information and share that as soon as we get another update.
Right.
Actually, Adam, we just got new into our newsroom some insight into that. A local hospital in Winder is receiving patients with gunshot wounds related to this incident. That is what CNN is reporting at this afternoon. We do know that Piedmont Regional Hospital in Athens is the closest. We have not yet confirmed where those victims have been taken. But again, CNN is reporting that a local hospital in Winder is receiving patients with gunshot wounds. And as you and Rick just mentioned, one person was also airlifted away from this scene. So certainly a tragic day for this community here. And there are certainly a lot of parents who are hoping that their babies are not one of those victims. So from where you are, Adam, can you tell us, does it seem like parents are able to get to a certain place? I know the school is quite large, so you're certainly not able to say where all they may be stationed right now, but what's going on near you? Are they allowing parents to station over there? Do you see any students? Just kind of fill us in from what you're seeing from the ground there.
Yeah, well, you're seeing an ambulance pull off right now that just came up here. It looks like it's trying to gain access to the front of the school, so there could be more people that are going to be transported, or students or faculty or staff, we don't know, but it's entering on the side of the building there. We just saw this ambulance pull up. Now, you're also looking at a lot of what appear to be, parents that are trying to arrive here. They're kind of being taken over to the side of the school, the left side. If you're looking at the front of the school, the left side of the school. But there are also several that were parked about a block away. So we have is this a medic chopper? Let me give you a live picture here, guys. We have a medic chopper that is making its way into the campus. This is a live picture right now. Now, this would indicate that they're going to airlift one or more individuals and rush them to perhaps Grady. I know that's a trauma center, and that's where they tend to take a lot of trauma patients. So this is a live look, as you see, a medic chopper coming in right now. It's going to land somewhere in the parking lot. There's not a lot of room out here, I'll tell you that, with as many law enforcement officers on scene.
Well,
it will land here. Yeah.
We did see another airvac chopper that looked exactly like this one land on that patch of grass right by the flagpole in the center of the parking lot, right in front of the front entrance to the school. Land right there, and it looks like this one is landing in the same spot. So we'll keep our eye
you're
on
right,
these,
Rick. That's exactly
on these live pictures here, and this does indicate, of course, that there are more victims, patients who are serious enough not to be taken to the hospitals that we've been hearing about, who have been receiving patients with gunshot wounds, but instead to be flown to Grady Memorial Hospital, where there is the level 1 trauma care that's available, the more serious care that is available there at Grady.
Well, we also have a statement from the governor. He has weighed in on this afternoon, and he has said, and this is a direct quote from Governor Brian Kemp, "I have directed all available state resources to respond to the incident at Apalachee High School and urge all Georgians to join my family in praying for the safety of those in our classrooms, both in Barrow County and across the state. We will continue to work with local, state, and federal partners as we gather information and further respond to this situation." Now, the FBI Atlanta is also on top of this case as well. They have also released a statement saying, and I quote, "FBI Atlanta is aware of the current situation at Apalachee High School. Our agents are on scene coordinating with and supporting local law enforcement. And we have seen law enforcement in droves show up to the scene. They've been leaving the scene, presumably taking victims, as we now know, who have been headed to area hospitals. We now know a lot of the students Everybody who presumably is not injured right now is there in the stadium to the left of your screen. They have been evacuated to that area. And as for now, a lot of parents are just waiting to see when they will be able to be on campus and reunite with their kids.
You know, one thing we have been staying away from is sort of classifying what type of incident this was.
Right.
We can now safely say that this has been a shooting.
Yes.
A school shooting at Apalachee High School right here in Metro Atlanta in Barrow County. Again, there is a suspect in custody. The statement from the Barrow County Sheriff's Department telling us that there is someone in custody. We don't know if they're looking for any more suspects at this time. There's also confirmation that casualties have been reported, but we don't know the number of people who have been injured, nor do we know the severity of those injuries, although we have to assume that at least a couple of them are seriously injured enough that they are being transported to Grady Memorial Hospital, air vac there. Others, we've been told, have been taken to local hospitals. And now we see some live pictures of law enforcement, again, walking towards the front entrance of the building. And they do not appear to be in a type of active posture where, you know, there is some type of an active situation.
Right, where they're rushing.
You could see the FBI agents as well. There is not a lot of urgency in the way that they're moving and walking. So we don't want to assume anything, but it's just an observation as we take a look at these live pictures from the First Alert chopper over the scene that we've been now watching for the better part of the last hour or so. And you can see there the first responders with their gear. We have Adam Murphy on the scene and some other reporters as well who are arriving there. We're trying to gather as much information as we can to bring you the very latest on a situation that has unfolded this morning in Barrow County, a shooting at Apalachee High School where there are casualties and there is one person in custody.
You mentioned other reporters. Chelsea Bimeford is on the way as we speak. She just got there to the area, but says that she's on a 1-mile walk to the school. So that may give an idea of how far off law enforcement have barricaded that access into the school as they are still trying to make sense of this very active scene. And if you are just now joining us at 12:15, this is breaking news we're staying on top of. This is a live look in Barrow County. This is Apalachee High School in Winder, where there has been a shooting. There have been victims transported to area hospitals with gunshot wounds. We've confirmed as far as reporting from CNN goes, and we have seen one victim airlifted to the hospital. We have watched the helicopter return, presumably to gather more victims who may also need an airlift as well, Ray.
And we've seen the scene at the football stadium just next door to the school where students and faculty have been evacuated and brought to sort of be in a holding area while this situation played out. You could still see literally hundreds of students who were still there on the scene. This is a school that has about 1,900 students. So it's a fairly large school, and you can only imagine the kind of stress that everyone there is under right now as we await more information on exactly how many people have been injured and to what degree. Also, who is this suspect? Is this someone who was known to the school? Is this someone who was a student at the school or a former student at the school? We don't know any of that information right now, other than the fact that there is one person in custody, and that's according to the Barrow County Sheriff.
Now, I was looking around on social media just to get a better sense of what people who are familiar with this situation are seeing as far as people who have students there, who have kids there, and it seems that they're just very worried. A lot of posts from parents who are very concerned, saying we haven't been able to get to our kids yet, we haven't been able to get near the school yet. Just a lot of confusion in those first early moments when, there wasn't a lot confirmed. But so far, we have been able to confirm. We do know that there has been a shooting at this school. There are multiple victims, and it is still an active enough situation that it does not appear that parents are being let onto the campus right now. So we have multiple reporters either there or headed to the scene. You've heard from Adam Murphy. You have heard from Chelsea Bimeford via us. We've showed you what she is dealing with as she makes her way to the school. She's about a mile away from the school where she was able to park and try to get close enough to give us a report. She wants to give us an eye view of what's going on because, as you can see, the campus is quite large. So as parents are showing up to find their children during this horrific incident, they don't really know where to go. We saw a long line of cars just stopped and waiting. At that point, law enforcement had barricaded the area off and appeared to only be letting other law enforcement vehicles in, and all the other cars were forced to stop and stay there and just hope that their kids are not one of these victims.
A lot of those parents that you mentioned, Lana, have walked past our Adam Murphy, who is on the scene, on the ground, just in front of the main entrance, the main entryway to the school. Adam, I wonder if you've been able to gather any more information.
Well, there's another ambulance just now arriving, pulling over on the left side. Parents, you may see over here in the open grass area, the front grass in front of the school, there are a lot of parents that have been told to make their way back towards the football stadium. As we've reported, that seems to be where students were taken as they were removed from the school when the active shooting incident was first reported. We have hundreds of law enforcement vehicles here. I also, last live shot that we did, an update we did for you, we were live showing one of the chopper medic units that was flying in. This is the second time we've seen a medic unit from a chopper that has come to the school. It's actually grounded right over there in a grassy area in front of the school near the American and state flag, the flagpole there. We have not seen anyone bring any potential patients out yet and load them into the chopper, the medic unit, but we're keeping our eyes on that as well. We did have a state patrol trooper come through here and say, if you're just arriving, meet at the football stadium. So I presume that information was directed towards any parents that may be arriving to check on their children. That's happening at this hour as well. But a very involved, chaotic scene. Several law enforcement agencies are here. We talked about State Patrol, City of Monroe, Barrow County, Gwinnett County, GBI, all of them here. Every one of them is here conducting their investigation into what occurred here at this school earlier this morning. Again, what I can tell you is I have seen at least 6 ambulances arrive since I've been here in the last 30 minutes. And I've seen 3 or 4 of them leave the scene in a hurry with their lights and sirens on, presumably going to a local or area hospital. It would indicate that there could be multiple injuries here.
All right, and that's Adam Murphy reporting.
Any student or parent or faculty member to have to encounter, and we don't know at this point the magnitude of this situation. Here is another Jackson County Emergency Services ambulance, does not have its lights and sirens on, but headed into the front area of the school. They've just been coming and going and coming and going. So as soon as we can gather more information about the extent and number of injuries, certainly we will share that with you. But a lot of frantic parents continue to arrive here at Apalachee High School in Barrow County after a very sad and tragic day here at the school.
We have gotten a statement from the GBI. You mentioned that you've seen Georgia Bureau of Investigation officers there on the scene. The GBI issuing a statement saying the GBI has responded to a shooting at Apalachee High School in Barrow County. We have agents on site assisting local, state, and federal law enforcement with the ongoing investigation. One suspect is in custody. We urge anyone near the area to stay clear while authorities investigate. And to the point that Adam was making about the magnitude and the fact that we don't know, it's a sad reality that I have covered. I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah.
Many of these types of situations, these shootings that take place in public spaces like schools, and very often the initial reports that come out end up not being the full truth.
Right.
And so as these details come out, and as you may find information on social media, just know that it's going to take some time to sort out the facts. We're going to do that here. We're not going to report any rumors or anything else until we've been able to confirm it with our trusted sources. And so it's going to take a little while, though, as Adam said, to learn the magnitude of exactly what has gone down there, how many people have been impacted and involved and injured and wounded. We can report, though, because this is the statement we're getting, that one person is in custody.
And we can also report that there are multiple victims, just in the sense that we were told that multiple people had been taken to area hospitals with gunshot wounds, and you watched along with us as with First Alert Chopper as someone was airlifted to Grady Memorial Hospital. So certainly a horrible situation here, and it may seem calm outside of the school right now, but we assure you this is a very active situation right now. People are still being urged to stay away from this scene. Certainly parents are headed there as we speak, hoping that their children are not one of these victims. Of course, it may take some time to identify whoever is arriving to the hospital, of course, so parents are finding out along with us. We are live on air watching this happen with you. It's a terrible situation. We're trying to be as clear and concise and truthful as we can. That's why we're trying to stay with the facts, as Rick said, because there are a lot of things circulating on social media right now. Not always the best to believe that. So again, we want to tell you we are giving you a live look in Barrow County. This is Apalachee High School, where there is a heavy police presence after some sort of a shooting. We cannot tell you how bad the shooting is just yet, how many victims there is just yet, but we are staying on top of that. We are actively monitoring for updates as the show goes on. We can tell you that FBI Atlanta is on scene, GBI is on scene. Our governor has weighed in on this. He said resources are all headed over to this scene. We have students still evacuated there at the stadium. We have First Alert Chopper still giving us shots overhead so you can see what's going on. And we have Adam Murphy there on scene. We have Chelsea Beimfor, who's just arriving. She'll be gathering information. She'll be giving us a live report from a different vantage point. Hopefully give us some new information about what she's seeing. And it seems as if all the students are there kind of at the front, or we're watching someone on a stretcher being carried out. Gosh, this is just so heartbreaking. You hope for there to be minimal impacts to life here, and to see someone carried away on a stretcher from a school is just, it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. That person being loaded into an ambulance. We've gotten reports that gunshot wound victims have been taken to local hospitals. Piedmont Regional Hospital in Athens, we believe, is the hospital that's receiving these patients. There are other hospitals as well that may be receiving patients. We have seen a steady stream now of parents who had driven to the school, who have gotten out of their vehicles, parked their cars along the highway, and have walked towards the building to try to connect with their children.
Right.
And all of those students and faculty members have been taken to that football field area where now we are seeing one person taken away on a gurney, moved away from that location and put into the back of an ambulance. That looked like an empty gurney there, thankfully. But again, Governor Kemp asking everyone to pray for the community at Apalachee High School, and I think the entire state of Georgia is doing that right now as we await to learn exactly what has gone down at the school this morning, where one person is now in custody, going to be accused of committing a horrible act with a firearm. Yet again, a school shooting that unfortunately we have seen play out around the country, and this morning it happened right here in Metro Atlanta.
And we have to remember, these are children. These are, gosh, some of them just got out of middle school. These are 9th to 12th graders who are now dealing with something that is going to stick with them for the rest of their lives. This happened at approximately 10:23 a.m. So the school day would have just gotten going a couple hours before, going as usual, and all of a sudden gunshots are ringing out, and their classmates potentially are getting hit. We are still waiting to confirm who the victims are. Were they students? Were they teachers? Were they staff? There are a lot of unconfirmed details right now, a lot of questions swirling as anxious parents are showing up to the scene trying to figure out, can they get their children right now? So we are staying on top of this. Again, we want to give you a scene setter, just showing you the scope of the school and who all is on scene. We know Barrow County Sheriff's Department is on scene, the GBI, the FBI, certainly the police department is on scene. A lot of law enforcement personnel, of course, first responders, emergency vehicles on scene, as people are both in and inside of the school investigating.
You can see the law enforcement, some of the officers that Lana's referring to right there. We know that that families and parents have been forced to pull over, some of them about a mile or so from the campus. And they are getting out of their vehicles and walking that distance. Must feel like the longest walk in the world, that 1 mile stretch to get to the campus, to be reunited with your child. But that is what a lot of parents are experiencing this morning in Barrow County. Adam Murphy is on the scene, and I know, Adam, you've watched a number of these parents because they've walked right by you.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about this. It's an emotional thing for everyone. And then, trying to gather the information when we don't have things confirmed, we have to be very careful with our reporting. What I can tell you is what I see. Okay, yet another ambulance, this one from Walton County, that has just pulled up to the front of the school. And this marks probably 6 to 8 ambulances that I have seen in the last 30 minutes that have come and gone from the school. So that would indicate multiple injuries here. We have hundreds of law enforcement vehicles. We have the helicopter, the medic vac unit that is up there as well, that landed in front of the school a short time ago, still here. And like I said, I'm hearing a lot of different information from different people. So we have to sort through that and be very careful. I mean, we know there is one gunman we've reported that's in custody. What we don't know is if there were more than one involved in the shooting that happened earlier today here at Apalachee High School in Barrow County. I'm hearing a lot of different things from different people, parents. We want to make sure we get that information confirmed before we begin to report things that aren't accurate. What I can tell you as well is that there is a news briefing that is going to take place very soon. Law enforcement is going to hopefully give us some details and some particulars about what happened out here just after 10 o'clock this morning at Apalachee High School in Barrow County. As you guys mentioned, we have several different law enforcement agencies that come from everywhere, and they're all here and they're surrounding the school. We've seen some in tactical gear as well, others that are patrolling the street here and telling parents to make their way towards the football stadium. I know we have reported that the students were taken out there as a safe place, after there was a lockdown and there were reports of gunfire. So we're going to continue to work this scene. We hope to gather more information with a news briefing in just moments. So stay right here with Atlanta News First. And as we gather new details, we will share them with you guys.
Yeah, Adam, thanks for that. We actually just got a brief report from Chelsea Bimfor, who has also just showed up to the scene. She's going to have a brand new report and new video for you in just moments. But I just want to give you a bit from what she's told us so far. She told us she talked to someone who says their loved one was in the room where a shooting happened. She is distraught, as you may imagine. She told us she has seen parents running down the street trying to get to the school. They also had to park about a mile away where Chelsea had to park as well. Again, police are still barricading the area off so people aren't able to just come right up to the school where they are and park. They're parking a mile away and running to get to their children right now. She's saying of the parents. She said she's seen people crying out there. She says that a mom came up to her sobbing, asking if we knew anybody who'd been confirmed as one of the victims. And again, no victim information has been released at this point, but that just gives you an idea of how terrifying this is for anybody who has a loved one who attends Apalachee High School right now. Again, we're going to have a live report so Chelsea can give you what happened straight from her mouth, from what she's seen and experienced out there. Again, we're trying to make sure we stick to the fact up here. We don't want to repeat or say anything that is just speculation. A lot of speculation on social media right now, so we just want you to be wary of that.
Yeah, one suspect is in custody. That we are confident in reporting. We've heard that from a number of different law enforcement sources. We don't know where that suspect is, whether the suspect is still in the building or whether the suspect has been removed from the building. and what the condition of the suspect is, whether or not there was any type of gunfire exchanged with the suspect. That's information that we are waiting to learn. Obviously, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered here, and we've sent a team of reporters to Apalachee High School to try to do the work of getting the facts, getting the information that we need so that we can share it with you. Chelsea Bimfor, one of those reporters who has just arrived at the scene. I know you've spoken with some loved ones of students there at the school. Chelsea, fill us in. What are you seeing and what can you share?
Well, Rick, we're on Tom Miller Road. This is about a half a mile from the high school. We had to park up here on the top of this hill about a mile away. You can see some other people walking towards us, likely parents of students here trying to come and pick their children up. Because there are so much law enforcement here and so much going on, they're asking parents to park up there too and walk down this road to get their children. So we've spoken to several of these people as they've been making their way towards the high school. First, we spoke with an older sister who says she got a frantic call from her younger sister who's a freshman at Apalachee High School. She said, "There's a shooter, we're out on the football field, can you please come pick me up?" Then we spoke to a grandmother who says her freshman grandson was in the room where someone got shot. She said her daughter was already here picking her grandson up, but she wanted to also come and make sure he was okay. Again, we have no idea how many fatalities there have been, but the sheriff's office is saying there are multiple casualties. So again, I want to give you a look at some of the parents that are coming down the street here. This is about a half a mile from the high school. They're a little bit further away, but as they keep walking down here, we will try to speak with some of them about what they're seeing and hearing. And just one more thing before we toss it back to you guys. Another frantic mother came up to us a few minutes ago and said, "Do you know the names of the students involved?" At this point, of course, we don't have those names, but she said, "My son is a senior. I can't get in touch with him." Of course, very upset and crying. We're working to get this information verified as quickly as possible, guys.
All right, Chelsea Bimfor live there on the scene, and I can only imagine what it's like for those parents and siblings.
This is tough. This is a tough situation. Anybody who has a child can certainly understand what these parents must be feeling as they are running a mile to get to the school to find out if their loved one is one of these victims. We do know that several victims have been taken to the hospital, to area hospitals. So certainly some parents who may have been notified may be showing up there. We do know that someone has been airlifted to Grady Memorial Hospital. That means their injuries must have been very serious to need to be airlifted instead of being taken via a vehicle to get to the hospital nearby that area. And it's tough. You might hear our voices breaking a bit because this is hard. We understand these are children that we're talking about here, children in our area who've just either suffered something so horrible or they've witnessed it and they will never be the same after this. So it is a tough day. Chelsea, if we still have you there, if you're able to see what road you're on, it seems like some parents are having some success getting that way. Do you know if parents are being told to come where you are or if they have just come that way trying to get to their kids any way that they can? What can you tell us?
Well, Lana, here comes another police car right now. That was an unmarked car, so I'm not sure what agency it is, but that's another thing we've seen here. This is Tom Miller Road, about half a mile from the high school. We've only been out here about 20 minutes, but we've just seen several of these police cars race by. We've actually seen 2 ambulances as well coming down this street. So as far as where parents are being told to park, I don't think there's a precise direction. They're coming from all over the place. So again, there's another entrance on the other side of the school, on the back side of the school, but from where we are on Tom Miller Road, they were being asked to park at an intersection just up the street and walk about a mile down towards Apalachee High School. Again, here come 2 more police cars. These do appear to be Georgia State Patrol vehicles that are passing. Excuse me, it looks like there's 4 of them. A very large law enforcement presence out here. We know Georgia State Patrol is here, the GBI is here, the FBI is involved, and of course the Barrow County Sheriff's Office and Winder Police Department all on scene as well. We've also seen Lawrenceville Police Department cars making their way down towards Apalachee High School.
Chelsea, these cars that we see, the law enforcement vehicles, are they heading to the school or away from the school?
The ones that you just saw zooming past us are actually heading away from the school. So, unclear where those are going, but we are being told that one suspect is in custody. So, of course, they have a lot more investigating to do here as well, trying to figure out what the motive was behind this and what led up to the shooting.
We should mention, when you see the word, we have the word casualties on the screen right now. When police talk about casualties, that could mean that someone has been killed or injured.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean that the person, the casualty, is dead. It could be someone who has been killed or injured. And so the number of casualties at this point, we don't know. We have not gotten that information, but we have seen so many ambulances. Adam was talking about 6 to 8 ambulances that he had witnessed himself, just sort of, speeding away from the scene. We also did witness someone put it into a helicopter and choppered to Grady Memorial Hospital. This is video, not live, but video of one of those air vacs, the one that has a patient in it that left the scene. This is probably about an hour or so ago that this took place. And so the original calls, just to catch you up here at 12:40 on this Wednesday afternoon, the original calls came in just after 10:20 this morning. Reports of gunfire at Apalachee High School. Police then responded to those calls, and we've gotten this statement from the Barrow County Sheriff's Department as we take a look at these live pictures of parents walking to the campus of Apalachee High School to be reunited. They're praying with their children. That at approximately 10:23, officers from multiple law enforcement agencies and fire EMS personnel were dispatched to the high school in reference to a reported active shooting. One suspect is in custody and casualties have been reported. Details on the number or their conditions is not available at this time. And again, this is video. These are not live pictures. This is video that we've been gathering over the last 90 minutes or so since we first went on the air with this, showing you the scene, which at various times has been active or I don't want to say inactive, because obviously there's a lot going on there.
Right.
But we've seen a lot of law enforcement sort of walking around without the sense of urgency that you would expect if there was an active shooter still at large. And when we say that there's one person in custody, we don't know whether or not there are any other suspects that they're looking for. So again, a lot of information we don't know, a lot of rumors flying around on social media. We're going to stick to the facts and report that to you as we take a look at these pictures. Again, video from moments ago, not live, of that law enforcement officer who was armed walking towards the building, some of the other law enforcement vehicles that were brought to the scene.
And as far as that one suspect who is in custody right now, we have not been given any information about that person as well. So we don't know whether that is a man, a woman, whether that was a student, whether that was a random person who made their way onto the school. There have been 0 confirmed reports from law enforcement as to who the suspect is. Same story for the victims. No confirmed reports of who the victims are as of 12:41 right now. But Chelsea, we want to get back to you because you are the only person right now who is standing anywhere near parents seem to be able to get close enough to the school to find their children. We know you've talked to multiple parents or grandparents of students at the school. Can you tell us what you've heard?
Well, guys, we are trying to talk to more families as they come down this hill here on Tom Miller Road. These are actually some other media outlets and news crews that are walking towards us right now. But behind them, it does look like there are some more families. So it's just been incredibly emotional in the very short time that we've been out here. We spoke to 2 families who had made contact with their students or their grandchildren and knew that they were okay and that they were on the football field and that's where they were heading to pick them up. But then we spoke to another mother who had not heard from her son. She said he's a senior. She said, do you know the names of the students involved? Which, of course, we don't have that information yet, as all of this is still very active. But she was very shaken up, trying to get to the school as quickly as possible. Again, these parents are having to park about a mile away and walk down here in order to pick their students up from the football field or outside the school. Again, we're going to try to speak to some of these parents if one of them would be willing to speak with us on live TV. So we'll get back with you in just a second.
All right, Chelsea, we'll let you go and do that as we get everybody caught up to speed here at 12:43. On this Wednesday afternoon, you're taking a look at a map where there has been a school shooting at Apalachee High School in Barrow County, Winder, that is northeast, about an hour north of downtown Atlanta. There has been a shooting with multiple casualties, and a suspect is in custody. That's about what we know and what we've been able to confirm right now. The call came in to law enforcement at around 10:23. Law enforcement from multiple jurisdictions arriving at the scene, state, local, federal law enforcement there, as students were evacuated to the football field to be in a safe location while law enforcement worked at the scene and all of this unfolded. We've seen one person airlifted away in a helicopter, taken to Grady Memorial Hospital. We've seen a number of other ambulances speeding away from the scene, presumably taking patients to local hospitals, where we have gotten reports of people showing up, patients showing up with gunshot wounds. Again, we're working to confirm the details on exactly how many people we're talking about and exactly what state, what's going on right now in terms of the investigation and whether or not there are any more suspects that are being looked for. But again, it's a terrible scene unfolding this morning in Metro Atlanta, where this epidemic in our country of school shootings has hit home, very close to home in Metro Atlanta today.
This is a tough day, and it has been heartbreaking watching these parents run down the street trying to get as close as they can to their kids. As far as we know, nobody is being allowed on the campus other than law enforcement personnel right now. So parents have just been in a long line of cars near the school waiting to see when they'll be allowed onto the campus to ensure their child is not one of these victims. And we've seen other parents just parking, we're told, a mile away and walking down the street to get as close as they can. We have several reporters on scene right now to make some sense of this, because we want to make sure we give you the facts. We want to give you information from people who are there right now and people who have dug into information that is verified. So we have Chelsea Bimefort on scene, Yasmina Alston has just arrived on scene, and Adam Murphy is on scene. They are all there gathering information right now. We also have Andy Parati in studio. Andy, we know you've dug into a lot of information as far as this situation goes. So what can you tell us this afternoon?
Yeah, so what you're likely looking at in the images seeing on the screen is an action plan that the school and local law enforcement have put in place. And that's because once a year, schools are required to do active shooter drills. And that's according to a law that went into effect last year that requires active shooter training drills once a year at the school district. The law also requires schools to report completion of the drills to the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency. Also, schools are required to create a school safety plan to reduce the growing incidence of gun violence in schools, as we've been talking about, and also the creation of a state-approved school safety and anti-gang program, training teachers who want to volunteer to identify potential gang activity. According to Everytown for Gun Safety, unfortunately, as we all know, this is not the first gun incident in Georgia or United States in general. According to national numbers, so far this year, there have been 133 gun-related incidents so far this year. 38 of those resulted in fatalities, 81 injuries. Again, we're not talking about specifically Georgia. This incident, we're talking about national numbers nationwide so far this year. We don't know whether there were any metal detectors in place at this school, but we do know, according to the student code of conduct that we reviewed, that the school's conduct does have the ability, the school does have the ability to use handheld metal detectors if they suspect a student or someone else at the school may be carrying a weapon. So just some added perspective as we're looking at these images, that you are looking likely at an action plan in place that the school and local law enforcement have been working on for years, especially since the school and the state implemented that new law last year requiring active shooter drills at least once a year. Those drills are required to be conducted at least by October 1st, guys.
Andy, we appreciate that context as we take a look at this video from earlier. These are not live pictures from the scene. This is video that we've gotten over the last hour and a half or so. One of our reporters who's there at the school in front of Apalachee High is Adam Murphy. Adam, fill us in. What are you seeing now?
All right, Rick, so we actually moved to a new location. We're actually on the front lawn area of Apalachee High School. You can see the law enforcement vehicles behind us. That's the front of the school you're looking directly at. We moved into this area because we have been told by law enforcement that this is where they will gather and hold a news briefing. We have not been given a time for that news briefing, but we have repositioned ourselves to be in place once they come out and provide some updated information. I can tell you, if you look to your left, you will notice the football stadium kind of behind the school, and that is where all the students were taken once there was an active shooter reported and the school went down, or went on lockdown, I should say. Everybody was taken from the inside of the school back over there to the football stadium and the stands, and that is where we've seen many parents making their way over there to check on their children. I have had an opportunity to speak with a few parents and others who have children that attend this school. One woman just moments ago declined to talk on camera, but did tell me in a very emotional response that it's been a very difficult day for her loved one that was in the school, and out of respect for the child, she decided that it was probably not best to discuss what she may have experienced or witnessed. And that's kind of the theme I've run into here. I think everybody's still in shock, as you would imagine. I mean, it's such a traumatic thing. You know, you talk about anyone that has children. I mean, this is definitely a worst nightmare scenario for any parent to have to deal with. And so we're just trying to make sure that we respect their space, but also provide any updated information as it becomes available. Again, several law enforcement agencies are here. We've heard multiple reports that we know one individual, right, was arrested and taken into custody, as a potential shooter. But we don't know if there were others involved. And we have seen a number of rescue units, emergency personnel, ambulances come and go throughout the afternoon. Now, we've sort of reached a bit of a stall or a quiet point here where there hasn't been a lot of activity. I reported earlier that there was a helicopter that flew in and it transported at least one individual earlier and then came back, but it's still sitting out on the front lawn near the flagpole and has not left since we reported that over a half an hour ago. So I think it's probably here in the event that it needs to take anyone to a level 1 trauma center like Grady in an emergency situation, but it still remains here, that chopper does, that medic unit. So we're going to continue to hold tight here, see if we can speak with any other parents that are arriving, and also hope that we get some new information from law enforcement very soon. And as soon as that happens, we will carry that live for you right here on Atlanta News First, guys.
All right, Adam, thanks very much. Yeah, as a parent of high school students myself, not at this school, but in Fulton County, it is difficult to report on these types of situations. And I know from my own kids that they do go through these active shooter drills, not just high school students, but through all ages of kids here. They go through these active shooter drills where the school lets parents know, tomorrow we're going to be doing this, just so you know, your child's going to be taking part in one of these drills. And so this is something that schools prepare for, and of course this is something, as we were hearing from Andy, that law enforcement prepares for, that is mandated by law. We also will wait for some information on SROs, school resource officers, who are assigned to this school. We don't know exactly what their role was in the response to this, but often, they are the first responders because they're there when an emergency actually takes place, as opposed to other law enforcement that has to arrive at the scene. And we know from the terrible situation in Parkland, Florida, for example, where the school resource officer did not go into the school after hearing gunshots. So that was a big controversy, understandably, that involved lawsuits, in fact, in Parkland, Florida. But take a look at these pictures now. You can see that chopper that Adam was talking about that had flown a patient earlier to Grady Memorial Hospital and then flew back. It looked like the same chopper, the one that we saw take off earlier. So it might, in fact, be that same helicopter that has not been loaded up with any additional patients to transport at this point. We are hearing from the White House press office that President Biden has been briefed by his Homeland Security advisor on the tragic shooting at Apalachee High School in Winder, Georgia, and the administration will continue coordinating with federal, state, and local officials as we receive more information. That is the statement from the White House. And so the president has been briefed, and we have seen FBI, federal law enforcement there on the scene amongst all the other law enforcement officers. And
we have Atlanta News First anchor Brooks Baptiste standing by as well. Brooks, you have more information about what Atlanta's mayor has said. Actually, we just lost Brooks, but I can tell you that Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens released a statement moments ago, and it says, "My prayers are with the high school students, staff, and families affected by the senseless act of violence in Winder, Georgia. I have been in contact with Chief Shearbaum, and the Atlanta Police Department has been working with the Atlanta Public Schools Police Department to bolster patrols around our schools for the rest of the day out of an abundance of caution. APD has also been on standby in case law enforcement agencies need assistance with this incident. May God comfort the victims and their loved ones in the difficult days ahead." And it has obviously been a very difficult day for the parents and loved ones of students and staff at this school as everybody tries to make sense of what's going on here. Again, we have confirmed there are multiple victims involved in this shooting. Some were transported to local area hospitals there in Winder. One was airlifted to the hospital here in our area, to Grady Memorial Hospital, which we know is a level 1 trauma center. And some parents, it seems, may have had contact with their kids. Others are still trying to reach out to their kids. There's a lot of chaos and a lot of questions at this hour that we are here for you with team coverage as we sort these things out.
Yeah, and we're going to stick to the facts, what we've been able to confirm. We know that there's a lot being circulated on social media. We are going to report what we can tell you as fact, what we've gathered from our trusted sources. We do know, again, that one person is in custody. We don't know anything about the person in custody. We don't know if it's a male or a female or a student or a former student. We have no information on that at all. But one person is in custody according to law enforcement. And we've seen hundreds of students and faculty members brought to that football field that you see right there on the screen. And this is where parents are being told to go to gather their students. And we have seen parents walking, some of them from a mile or so away, having had to park their car and walk on foot to get close enough to be able to get to the campus. This is video from a little while ago, not live, but we have seen a contingent of law enforcement officers. At one point here, we're seeing video of what looked like law enforcement officers entering into the school building in some type of active formation, but we didn't learn anything more about what happened once they got inside the building. So, as Lana said, there are a lot of questions. We're going to get you the answers, and when we can report something, we will do so. But we are not going to speculate at all at this point. Brooks Baptiste has been covering this story from the beginning. And Brooks, as we take a look at this video now, and we are waiting for more information, it really is just a tragic day. These kids now are part of a club that no kid wants to be a member of, to be a student at a school where there's been a school shooting.
Yeah, Rick and Lana, this is just an awful and terrifying situation. I think we could all agree there. We are getting a lot of reaction that is pouring into the newsroom, and we are bringing those statements to you directly. So we are told that President Joe Biden has spoken with his Homeland Security advisor. The White House says his administration is going to continue coordinating with federal, state, and local officials. And that reaction is pouring in right now. Governor Brian Kemp saying that he is directing state resources to respond respond, and he's encouraging prayer. And prayer seems to be a common sentiment among most of the people who are speaking out about this awful situation here. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens also releasing a statement saying, quote, "My prayers are with the high school students, staff, and families affected by the senseless act of violence in Winder, Georgia. I have been in contact with Chief Shearbaum, and the Atlanta Police Department has been working with the Atlanta Public Schools Police Department to bolster patrols around our schools for the rest of the day out of an abundance of caution." Also been on standby. APD has been on standby in case law enforcement agencies need assistance with this incident. The mayor went on to say, "May God comfort the victims and their loved ones in the difficult days ahead." So again, guys, between the mayor, also several other officials speaking out right now, just calling for the community to come together in unity, as typically the community does, coming together in prayer and well wishes for all of those who have been impacted by this tragedy.
Yeah, Brooks, thanks for that. In the meantime, parents are worried right now. They are trying to get to their kids right now. So we want to take you back out live to Apalachee High School in Barrow County, where there are still students evacuated at the stadium. There are still a lot of parents trying to get to their kiddos. We have Chelsea Bimefore out there live with a witness. So Chelsea, you got a live interview for us. What can you guys tell us?
Yeah, Lana, we have been speaking with parents, but I want to bring in Mark Knotts. He's a witness. He lives across the street from the high school. You don't have any children, Mark, but you said that you live across the street, and just tell us what you heard this morning.
Well, this morning when I woke up, I heard gunshots, and several of them. I couldn't tell exactly how many, so I went outside to smoke my cigarette like I do every morning. And I noticed about 5 minutes after that, cop cars were everywhere. Surrounding 6 counties were everywhere. I'm talking about 1,000 cop cars. And I knew something was seriously wrong. And then I seen all the cars pulling on the side of the road and everything. And I just, I pray that, everybody's all right. And the people that have passed away, if there has been anybody, I just pray for their families and everything. And like I said, I just had to get away, and I'm just commuting to the store real quick. So,
shortly after you heard those gunshots, did people start coming out of the school?
It was crazy. Like it looked like I didn't really pay no attention to it at first. I was like, those sound like they were at the school. And I look over, and then the alarms started going off, like the school alarms, and people were going out around the school, and like they're doing like the drill, like the drill, fire drill stuff is what I seen. And then I knew something was seriously wrong then. And you don't hear about that happening. You hear about it happening all around the world, but it just shows that it can happen anywhere. And
this community is pretty small, tight knit. I mean, it's usually pretty.
There's no seriously gunplay or nothing like that goes on around Bethlehem. It hasn't been for years. It hasn't been that I can remember. And I'm 35 years old, so it's not really likely. So apparently, I don't know. I don't have no details, but apparently something was going on with somebody's mental. So that just shows that people need to be more aware of their children, if it was a child, about their mental state, because nobody never knows what the next man can do.
And those are details we're still trying to work out as far as what happened and what the motive may have been. But thank you so much, Mark, for your time. You as well. And Mark was telling us he lives right across from the high school. He says, of course, it's just been chaos out there this morning. All kinds of police officers, parents, children. He was actually walking towards us with his head down. He said, "I just need to step away from this for a little bit." He said he's walking up to the store to just take a breath. I mean, even people that really aren't involved with what happened at the school, this is a very highly emotional time for everybody in this community, guys.
Yeah, Chelsea, he mentioned mental health, and Representative Esther Panich actually did say that today. I know there's still a lot more emphasis on what has happened, but she did note for anybody affected or traumatized by what's happening right now at Apalachee High School, you can dial 988 and get help. This is such a horrible situation. And Chelsea, while we still have you here, I just wanted you to see if you could fill in what you've been hearing from parents. We don't have anybody who's willing to go live with you right now. As you can imagine, they are just trying to get to their babies and try to figure out what's going on there. But can you just fill us in of what you've heard from parents that you've talked to as they've rushed by you to get to the school?
Yeah, we spoke with a grandmother who is very distraught. She was walking down the street here. Her grandson is okay, and she's so thankful that he's okay. But she said he was in the room where a classmate was shot. So she's very thankful that her grandson is doing fine, but she says, of course, mentally, this is going to be very hard and something he's not going to forget the rest of his life. We also spoke with another woman who said she was the older sister of a girl here that's 14 years old, and she was also racing down this street here to get there and pick her sister up. She said she was okay, but was completely shaken up. Said she got a phone call from her crying this morning saying there's an active shooter. Please come pick me up. And I think we do have some of that soundbite that we'll play for you now. Is she okay? Have you talked to her?
Yeah, I've talked to her. She's a little nervous. They're on the football field waiting on the parents to come get them. She's very nervous.
Did she hear the gunshots?
I don't know. She didn't tell me. She just called us to say, could you hurry up and come get us? There's an active shooter here. And my first thing was to make sure she was okay. Nobody was hurt. So that's my biggest concern.
When you heard there was an active shooter?
Yeah, my heart started beating. I was actually on my way to go to work. And then I just dropped everything and I just got in the car and I left. The traffic was so bad at the front. I was in the middle of the red light and people were blowing, but there was nothing I could do. So the main thing is to make sure these kids are okay. So
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You have a good luck. Be safe. And you can see we did that interview as she was, almost jogging down to the school. This road here, Tom Miller Road, you can see people walking down it still at this hour, trying to get here, get off work and collect their children from the high school following the shooting that took place here this morning. Again, a lot of parents have made contact with their children and learned that they're okay, but we did speak with another mom who came up to us crying. She said she couldn't get in touch with her son, who's a senior here, was asking us for information, which of course we're still trying to get for everybody at home as well. We know that the sheriff's office is going to be holding a press conference shortly that Adam Murphy will be covering for us, guys.
All right, Chelsea, thanks very much. Your heart goes out to all the parents. That mom who dropped everything to rush, and thank goodness she was able to get in touch with her child who said she was okay. But again, the lasting trauma that these kids will experience as a result of having witnessed such a horrible act is something that will stay with them for a long, long time. There will be time to talk about mental illness and gun control legislation, possible things that people always talk about after these types of situations. But of course, right now is the time to gather information and so that we can tell you exactly what has taken place. And so we'll leave those discussions for later as we work to learn more about multiple casualties, people who have been injured. We do not know the severity of the injuries. We do know that there are multiple people who have been injured or killed in this incident today, this school shooting in Barrow County. And we're hearing from a number of different adjoining neighboring school districts, sort of again offering their prayers and support, talking about some of the safety procedures that are in place in their schools. And again, a lot of these schools, all of these schools now are mandated to have certain, different barriers, things that have been put in, technology that has been created specifically because of this epidemic of school shootings to fortify school entryways, doors that lock automatically with the push of a button so that someone can't enter the building from a different location. Different special glass that's installed, bulletproof glass used to try to fortify these entryways. And so again, as we wait to learn more information about this, we'll also learn about some of the safety procedures that were in place at Apalachee High School and exactly how well that safety plan was actually, they were able to carry that out.
Because people will want to know if this could have been prevented. There are so few details out right now. All we know is that one suspect has been taken into custody. There have been no confirmed reports of any other suspects. So we do not know that either way at this point. We don't know the suspect's relation to the school. Is this a former student? Is it a current student? Is it someone who has no business being at the school? That is unconfirmed right now. We also don't have confirmation of how many victims or who those victims are. We are constantly updating our information out here. We're in contact with our producers and the reporters on scene. As soon as we get an update on that, we'll let you know immediately as we're live on air, trying to keep you posted as this is still an active situation. So we have multiple reporters on scene right now. Adam Murphy, Chelsea Beimfor. We have people in studio here, but we want to get to Yasmina Alston, who is also out there on scene. Yasmina, what can you see from where you are?
Well, Lana, I can tell you that we're about a half a mile from the high school. And if you look behind me, you can see that this is where one of those checkpoints is set up, where officials are letting people know where they need to go. We've seen a ton of parents that have been trying to drive a little bit closer to both the high school and the middle school that are over in this area to get their kids, to check on their kids. You can also see a ton of those families that are making that walk. It's about a mile walk to get from where you see a lot of those cars parked over there to get over to the high school. If you look over here, you can see that there are some people that, you know, are seeing each other as they're making that walk over and checking on one another. These two women here, they just gave each other a hug. I'm assuming they have been looking for each other. And that's sort of what we've run into as we've been standing here and talking to families. They're looking for other people that they may know. They're looking for answers. They're looking for loved ones. Another thing we've run into is a lot of parents that have students at the middle school here on Heyman Morris Road, that middle school that's right next to the high school, because that school is also on lockdown. So you've got parents outside of that school sitting and waiting for answers, waiting to see when they can get their children. A lot of unanswered questions for families who just have no idea when they're going to be able to get their kids. We did have the chance to speak with one woman earlier, and she says that she got a frantic call from her sister who says that her nephew was in the high school at the time of the shooting, and he told his mom that he heard gunshots in the classroom next to his. He, of course, was locked down in his classroom, but that's a terrifying call, a terrifying text to get as a parent. That woman told us she immediately came over here to the school to try and get her nephew. When she got that call, she says, I mean, all sorts of emotions and thoughts ran through her mind. She tells us that's the one call, the one text that no parent, no family member ever wants to get coming from a student at the school. Again, what we're seeing right now is a lot of families, a lot of parents walking to try and get answers. And you can, of course, even from where we are, you can see the large law enforcement presence that is out here as well. And again, there is a checkpoint leading up to the school to tell parents where to go, to tell loved ones where to go. But many are just choosing to make that mile walk to get as close as they can in hopes of learning more about where their child may be.
Thank you, Yasmina. We have an update right now, and it's not a good one. We can confirm, the CBS News has confirmed with 2 law enforcement sources that 2 people are dead and possibly 4 injured. The suspect, again, is in custody. That part we knew, but this is new information confirmed by CBS News. 2 people are dead and possibly 4 more injured in this shooting today at Apalachee High School in Barrow County. You're taking a look at law enforcement that is now walking up to microphones to give us an update. Let's take a listen. We'll listen with you to what law enforcement has to say.
2 minutes.
All right, so that is a 2-minute warning. That is just so that the media can get itself ready for this news conference. And you can see there, I'm not sure exactly who that is. I'm going to guess it's the Barrow County Sheriff, but I don't want to
misidentify him. Yeah, but you can see GBI on scene. We know FBI Atlanta is on scene. Multiple law enforcement agencies on scene. Gosh, you can hear our voices breaking just a bit. Again, we have confirmed via CBS News, 2 people have died. At least 4 people are injured. We watched live with you as one person was airlifted to Grady Memorial Hospital. We saw ambulances rushing away from the scene. We were told they were going to area hospitals. And again, we have just confirmed, CBS News has confirmed with their law enforcement sources, 2 people have died. 4 people at least are injured in this shooting at Apalachee High School. What a terrible day for our community, for that community, for the loved ones of the people who go to this school or work at this school. We are less than 2 minutes away now from a press conference. As you can see, they're getting set up here right now. Multiple law enforcement on scene right now, and they're going to weigh in on what's going on here today.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Sheriff Judge Smith. I'm the sheriff of Barrow County Sheriff's Office. We're standing on the campus of Apalachee High School here at Barrow County Schools. First and foremost, I want to lift up our community. I want to give our sympathies to our community, our school system, our kids, our parents that had to witness this today. Obviously, what you see behind us is an evil thing today. At about 9:30 this morning, we received the first call that there was an active shooter on this campus. We're not releasing any information as far as injuries, but we have multiple injuries. This is a very, very fluid investigation. It's very early. And I have asked the assistance of the GBI and the agencies here behind me today, and there are multiple agencies that responded this morning to help us and help the sheriff's office. We do have a suspect in custody, and we are asking for your patience as the media to please let us get the facts that we need to make sure we get this right. Again, I've asked the GBI to help us, the sheriff's office, to help us along with this. I know this is not what you want to hear, but I'm not going to answer questions after this is over with. But I wanted to give you the respect and our community respect to let them know what was going on initially. We're in the process of reunifying our students with their parents. Obviously, that's chaotic, but we want to be respectful of them and their privacy as well. I want to thank the state, the federal agencies, the local agencies that showed up today, as you can see. The multiple EMS and fire from other agencies that responded today. Again, I ask that you lift up Barrow County Schools, lift up Apalachee, lift up our agencies. This is going to take multiple days for us to get answers as to what happened and why this happened. But I wanted to give you a statement. It is our hope, in conjunction with these people behind us, that we can give you another statement around 4 o'clock, because I know you have to go back on the air. That is my hope. But I wanted to be fluid with you all, understanding that it's fluid as well with this investigation. I appreciate you being patient with us. Again, it's very active and is ever developing. Every minute is developing on what we're finding. So we're going to have releases from other schools. Again, we ask that you be patient with us. Please be patient with us. And hopefully I can give you more information or more better information, if you will, this afternoon. Thank you all for coming out here. We'll be back shortly, okay?
Sheriff, it's been widely reported that people are dead. Is that true?
I'm not releasing any information. We have multiple injuries.
Can you say if the person in custody is an adult or a juvenile?
I'm not releasing any information. Guys, I'm not going to answer any more questions this time, okay? Thank you.
That is Sheriff Judge Smith.
Media, I just want to let everyone know that, as the sheriff indicated right now, the priority right now is trying to get the students back with their families. We will be holding a news conference at 4 o'clock. If you're not already following us on Twitter, X, make sure you're following us. We'll be providing updates then. I know there are a lot of details, investigative details. You want more information. That is what the investigators are actively working on right now. Anything to add?
Yeah, so the idea will be to be back here at 4 o'clock, but keep an eye on our social media. If that changes, you'll know it. We'll be able to address, hopefully answer more questions for you, okay? Or be in a position to give you more answers. We'll just have to see how things
We
go.
just realized this was happening. Tell us how many people, what you know about that.
We're not in any kind of position. The sheriff's made his comments. We'll leave it at that. By 4 o'clock, we hope to have a better picture, a bigger, so you can better comprehend what's going on. Okay? We really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, representatives from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. We heard from Sheriff Judd Smith, the Barrow County Sheriff, who said that an evil thing happened at Apalachee High School this morning. They got their first call at 9:30 of an active shooter. He said there are multiple injuries. He wouldn't give a specific number. He wouldn't tell us exactly the severity of the injuries. And he said this is a fluid investigation, that a suspect is in custody. He said they're going to take their time. They want to make sure they get this right, that right now they're in the process of reuniting students and parents. He said that is a bit of a chaotic situation, as you can imagine, but he asked the public and, of course, the media to be patient, and he promised more information he hoped to be able to give us at 4 p.m. In a few hours from now. So a little bit frustrating in that we didn't learn anything more, but you really do have to understand that when there is an active fluid situation, the police certainly don't want to say anything that could jeopardize their investigation. And so we didn't learn a whole lot more there, but at the very least, and he didn't say this, it seems as though the active nature of this incident has passed, and that this person in custody means the end of the threat to people on that campus and in that community.
Right. So, you know, what he didn't say also does tell us a lot about what's going on right now. And he said it himself, that they are finding new information every minute. So it's not that they are just withholding information or they're waiting because they just, you know, don't want to give an update right now. They're trying to make sure they have the facts right. Whatever has gone on at this school today, this morning, has been very difficult for them to investigate, get all of the details together in a succinct and correct manner. So we are going to make sure we do not report anything that is speculative or false information right now. Our goal is to give you the truth and to give you the facts in a very chaotic situation. Now, we have a lot of reporters who are on scene and here in the building digging to get as much information as we can possibly give you, new information. And to continue that is our investigative reporter, Andy Parati.
Yeah, Andy, I'm wondering if you can give us some context. We heard from the sheriff about the active fluid investigation. What are the types of things that they would be doing right now at this early stage?
Where they're going to be talking to as many witnesses as possible, right? People who were in the room when it happened, people who were responding to the shooting, school administrators. One of the things that we started looking into, and a lot of people are probably thinking about as they're taking this is happening. It seems like it's happening a lot. Well, here are the actual numbers that we pulled from an organization called Gun Violence Archive, which is an organization that tracks school-related gun incidents, mostly through media reports. And so far, or from 2022 to present, look at these numbers, 97 incidents, gun-related incidents, just in Georgia. 5 fatalities, 17 injuries, 72 arrests. Again, this is from 2022 to so far in 2024, specifically in Georgia. Nationwide, the numbers are even greater, 575. Those are those numbers that I was just mentioning to you. Again, these numbers 2022 to 2024 so far this year, 97 incidents. Of those 97 gun-related incidents in Georgia schools, 5 fatalities, 17 injuries, 72 arrests. Nationally, the numbers are even greater in 2024 alone. 575 gun-related incidents nationwide, 34 just in Georgia so far this year. A lot of people are asking potentially, how did the gun get in the school? We don't know the answer to that question. We also don't know whether they have metal detectors at this high school. But what we do know is, according to the Student Code of Conduct booklet, the school does have the ability to use handheld metal detectors if they suspect someone at the school, a teacher, a student, potentially has a gun. We also know that every year, according to a new law that went into effect last year called the Safe Schools Act in Georgia, that schools K through 12, not just high schools, are required to have at least one active shooter training drill a year, and that must be conducted by October 1st. Some of those requirements, according to that law, schools are to report the completion of those drills to the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency. Schools to create a school safety plan to reduce the growing number of incidents at schools. Much of what you are looking at right now, that action plan in place, so the students evacuated, potentially put in a safe area, law enforcement. All of these plans are made in coordination with the school districts, the schools, the school administrators, local law enforcement. Also, that's something that's required in that new law that went into effect last year, the creation of a state-approved school safety and anti-gang program that allows teachers to train to identify potential gang activity. Guys?
Andy, thank you very much. And while we heard from the sheriff about the multiple injuries, what he did not report was what CBS News has confirmed, which is that 2 people have been killed and possibly as many as 4 people injured. So while the sheriff didn't disclose that information, that is something that we are reporting that's been confirmed by law enforcement sources for CBS News.
Now we have Adam Murphy, who is still on scene. He is right where that press conference just wrapped up. So Adam, what can you tell us? Do we still have you there, Adam?
Very little information for us at this point in time. Yeah, we just heard moments ago from Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith. He had very little information to share above and beyond what we know at this point, but he did say, quote, what happened here at Apalachee High School in Barrow County today was, quote, an evil thing. He also reported to us there were multiple injuries. Like you said, that there is a suspect in custody. And at this point in time, they are trying to reunify students with their parents. Many of the parents we've talked about in the last hour since we've been broadcasting live out here have arrived on scene, and they have been directed over to the football stadium, which is behind the school. We are also being told that this is a very active and, quote, ever-developing scene here at Apalachee High School in Barrow County, and that they are in the very early stages of this investigation. But again, the sheriff saying what happened here this morning just after 9:30 when the first call came in was, quote, an evil thing. Now, we are hoping to get another update. We've been told in the 4 o'clock hour, perhaps at the top of that hour. And by that point in time, maybe, just maybe, we will know more about the active shooter and whether there was anyone else involved, and how many students or faculty members may have been injured. In fact, the sheriff wouldn't even confirm any fatalities, just saying multiple injuries. So we hope to gather new information about that by 4 o'clock this afternoon, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that maybe perhaps we'll get some new information even before then. But again, the Sheriff Judd Smith, saying this was an evil thing, and it is a very complex investigation, very involved and ever-changing. So we're going to stay on top of the developments out here. Parents and students currently being reunited, I should say. I'm told that is a pretty chaotic thing. That's what the sheriff said at this point in time, too. So he was asking for everyone's patience throughout this entire process, guys.
And Adam, you're within eyeshot of the football field. We saw in one of your earlier shots, it's just over your right shoulder, a little bit off in the distance there. I wonder if you've been able to see any of those reunions, if you've been able to see any parents walking away from the scene having been reunited with their kids.
Rick, that's actually a great question. No, we have not. We've been held to this point, not allowed to go any further into what was, is being considered a crime scene. So we are at quite the distance. But what I will say, I had a woman that was walking along the sidewalk that I caught up with moments ago. She said her grandson was in the school. She said, therefore, her child, obviously the student's parents, were there. They were in the stadium with the child, and that they have been advised not to leave the stadium at this point in time. So that is why perhaps we haven't seen anyone leaving any of these reunions, or parents and children leaving the football stadium, at least according to one woman whose grandson was there and was in the classroom or in the school when all of this happened. She was telling me the parents have been advised to stay in the stadium. So things are on lockdown at this point in time as this investigation unfolds. But earlier, as what you see the podium right here behind me, this is where Sheriff Judd Smith held his news briefing. It's very short. I mean, we're less than 5 minutes did he address the media and the public. He was surrounded by many law enforcement agencies from the FBI, the GBI, State Patrol, and others. So it is a very coordinated effort and investigation that is ongoing at this hour. And again, we hope to get an update for you sometime later this afternoon around 4 o'clock.
Adam, thank you so much for that. It does speak volumes as to how rapidly developing this is and how this is not a cut and dry incident. He said they were finding new evidence by the minute. So that was why they couldn't come out and just drop a load of information that everybody is looking for at this point, because they don't want to speculate. They want to get things right. This has been such a terrible day for the community. Chelsea Beimfohr is out there. She reported earlier that she was talking to parents as they were running down the street trying to get to the school. At that point, they had to park a mile away and were running towards the school just to get to their kids. She talked to a grandmother who said her 14-year-old grandson was very close to where the shooting happened. She said that grandmother was on her way. She said she talked to a woman who came up to her crying, asking if we knew the names of the victims because she couldn't get in touch with her son at that point. So this was just a terrifying morning. We have been on air with you all, watching as this has developed throughout the day since this happened. Again, they said they got the call about an active shooter at this Apalachee High School around 9:30 in the morning. It's 1:30 right now, and there are still parents who are there trying to get together with their kids, hoping their kids are not one of these victims. Multiple victims involved. We do not know the names or the ages or the grades right now. One suspect is in custody. We don't know if that's a student, if this is one of their classmates, or if this is somebody random, or if this was a former student. There are a lot of questions that I know a lot of people were hoping were going to be answered in this press conference. But again, because this is such a rapidly developing situation, and because they are still finding so much evidence by the minute, he said, they weren't able to give us that much information.
Yeah, he asked for patience.
Yeah.
And I think it's understandable under the circumstances. You have to let law enforcement do its job and figure out exactly what went on. They certainly don't want to share any information that then turns out not to be accurate.
Right.
And so they did talk about another press conference coming up in about 3.5 hours, 4 p.m. It's coming up on 1:30 here. And if you're just joining us, it's been a terrible day in Barrow County at Apalachee High School, where there's been a shooting and there are multiple people who are injured. One suspect is in custody. We have law enforcement from all over the state and even federal law enforcement there on the scene, conducting an investigation into exactly what went down. You see the students there who were evacuated to the football field for safety. Right now, parents have been driving frantically to the school, to the campus. Some of them having to park, though, as far away as about a mile or so, as close as they could get. Those parents then getting out of their vehicles and on foot, walking all the way to the campus for a reunion that they are hoping and praying takes place soon with their children.
Now, we have team coverage today. We have reporters all around this school, so we know the moment there's a new development out there. One of them is Yasmina Alston. Yasmina, we understand you've just spoken with someone. What can you tell us?
Lana, I just had the chance to speak with a 15-year-old student at the high school. He had just gotten picked up from the football stadium. He was with his mom. He was with his sister. They were all understandably shaken up by what happened, but he did walk us through what happened inside of the school. He says they heard the gunshots in the classroom. He tells me that his teacher immediately closed the door, locked the door, had them hunker down. They had no idea what was happening, but he says they immediately jumped into action to get into that lockdown position. I asked him what went through his mind during that time, and his main concern was, are his friends okay? Are his classmates okay? Because there were so little answers coming into the classroom. Of course, at that time when they were still on lockdown, he was concerned about his friends. He was concerned about his classmates. He said the gunshots sounded very close to the classroom that they were in. He tells me that, the entire time that they were in the football stadium waiting to get picked up and waiting to get any answers, they were sad. I mean, they were disturbed by what happened. And he says, you hear about this happening in other places. He never imagined that this would be happening at his school, that this would be happening and that his classmates would have to go into a lockdown, that they would be experiencing an active shooting situation. He says it's something they've talked about in the classroom before, but never did he imagine that something like this would actually happen. He says those hours waiting in the football stadium to be picked up by his parents, he says those were some of the longest hours that he's experienced because he just didn't know. When he heard about, the two fatalities,
he has so many questions. He wants to know, who are they, and are his friends okay? Are his classmates okay? He told us that he's very happy to have the chance to go home now. His mom also, very shaken up by what happened, but also relieved that she was able to get her son.
Yasmina, very quickly, can you just give us a quick look at the scene around you? We can see you're in front of the school. I can see the school sign there behind you. Are parents coming there? Is that road still blocked off? What's the scene there behind you?
Yeah, so the road is still blocked off. They're letting select people come through down this road. We've, of course, still seen a lot of law enforcement coming down here, getting closer to the high school. We're actually in front of the middle school here, and they're also on lockdown. We've had a lot of parents who've been coming here hoping to get their child, but one person did tell us that that would probably be another hour or so before they were able to get anyone out of the middle school. We have seen tons of families making this walk, many walking at least a mile to try to get as close as possible to the high school to get their children and to get their loved ones. So it is still very active over here as well, but there is a law enforcement presence at the end of the road, and they are directing who is able to come down here and get closer to the high school. And you can see off in the distance there all of the people that are either making the walk away from the school or trying to get closer.
My gosh, you can only imagine. You're told that there's a shooting situation at a high school and you can't get any closer but a mile away, and now you got to walk down the street like these poor parents. My gosh, Yasmina, thank you so much for that.
So you've got the high school, and then you've got the middle school right there. So you think about the number of parents who are desperately trying to get either in touch with or be reunited with their students. If your student, even if your student isn't inside Apalachee High School, they're still across the street, and in a lockdown situation. So there are a lot of parents in Barrow County today who are frantically trying to reach their loved ones, and just a very challenging, difficult day, an evil thing that took place, according to Sheriff Judd Smith, the Barrow County Sheriff. He said it was an evil thing that happened at Apalachee High School today. And we're going to learn more about it throughout the afternoon, of course. But we do know that there is a suspect in custody. And so that then begs the question, where is that suspect right now? We've seen, and multiple law enforcement vehicles speeding away from the scene. And you just wonder exactly where they were heading. But we don't know that. So we await word on the suspect and exactly what state that suspect is in, and what police have been able to learn about that suspect. You know that they are going to be going through the suspect's social media. They're going to be, if the suspect is able to speak, they'll be, of course, interviewing the suspect, trying to get information about why. What is the motive here? Why would this person, whoever he or she is, why would they have wanted to go into Apalachee High School today and do what they did, leaving multiple people injured, according to the sheriff?
And we're just told that there's going to be a White House briefing very soon. So as soon as that happens, we'll be able to take you there and let you know what's going on with that. We know that the White House was briefed about this incident a couple hours ago. We've been live on the air at this point for hours, just trying to make sure you are as updated as possible in this horrific situation that's happened in Barrow County. So again, when the White House briefing gets started, we'll take you there. When we had our own press briefing right outside the school, the sheriff's office wasn't able to say much. Again, we're told that they're going to have more information for us at 4 p.m. So hopefully they're able to fill in some key details here, namely about the suspect, who this person is, as Rick just mentioned, what relation they may have to the school, and the victims, how many victims there are, what were their injuries. We know one was airlifted to the hospital, to Grady Memorial, a level 1 trauma center. That means those injuries must have been pretty grave. We know others were taken via an ambulance to local area hospitals. Hopefully they're doing okay and their injuries are not as bad. What a horrific situation these students have been put through today. Again, they got the call. Law enforcement first started getting the call about this active shooter at 9:30 in the morning. So can you imagine, some parents would have just dropped their kids off These kids would have just started the school day when they started hearing gunshots ringing out around them. Yasmina said that she talked to a student who said that it sounded very close to where he was, that he was thankful to be out on that field in this heat, in the safety, when some of his fellow classmates were not so lucky. You know, she said that all he could think about, this student, was, are my classmates okay? You know, all these students were evacuated to this stadium and they had nothing. They had no details other than they were dropped off at school, gunshots are ringing out, and now this active shooter training that we've been forced to do is coming in handy. You never think this day is going to come, certainly not in your own community, certainly not in Barrow County. Everybody we've talked to out there has said they are astounded that this would happen in our community, in this tight-knit, close community.
Well, that's what everybody says when it happens in their community, that they never thought it could happen there. And now we have seen time and time again that it can happen anywhere, at any location, any school, at any time. And we do want to report that CBS News is reporting and has reported that according to 2 law enforcement sources, 2 people were killed and potentially 4 more were injured. There are a couple of other news organizations that are reporting that as well, that there have been 2 fatalities. Again, we are expecting more information from the sheriff when he holds another press conference at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So it's going to be a while till we get some official word from law enforcement. But right now, law enforcement sources are telling CBS News that 2 people were killed and potentially 4 more injured. And I wonder if our producers can maybe replay and get the sound that we got from the mom that Chelsea was able to speak to as she was on her way to the school to collect her child. She had thankfully heard from her child, knew that her child was okay, but still that long walk for the reunion. She talked about getting ready for work when she heard about the shooting, that she dropped everything and began driving towards the school. A lot of parents in their vehicles were only able to get so close. Some of them had to park as far as a mile away. But again, those parents then getting out of their cars and walking towards the school. You know, I could tell you as a father of high school students that most of those kids either had cell phones or have friends who had cell phones.
Right.
So thankfully, you'd have to think that those parents knew that their children were okay on their way. It wasn't as though they were wondering if their child was all right. They were walking towards the student knowing that there would be a reunion at that football field, thankfully. But still, what a traumatic and stressful situation for parents in Barrow County. And it's not just the high school that's impacted. There's a middle school across the street that was locked down as well. So you have all of the parents, all the families with students at the high school where the shooting took place, and then, of course, at the neighboring middle school where that school is in a lockdown situation and will remain in a lockdown situation, according to Yasmina, for some time, maybe at least another hour or so, that situation will remain in a lockdown.
Right, so here's what that parent had to say.
Is she okay? Have you talked to her?
Yeah, I've talked to her. She's a little nervous. They're on the football field waiting on the parents to come get them. She's very nervous.
Did she hear the gunshots?
I don't know. She didn't tell me. She just called us to say, could you hurry up and come get us? There's an active shooter here. And my first thing was to make sure she was okay. Nobody was hurt. So that's my biggest concern.
When you heard there was an active shooter?
Yeah, my heart started beating. I was actually on my way to go to work. And then I just dropped everything and I just got in the car and I left. The traffic was so bad at the front. I was in the middle of the red light and people were blowing, but there was nothing I could do. So the main thing is to make sure these kids are okay. So
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You have a good luck. Be safe.
And I'll tell you, Chelsea didn't have a lot of success talking to parents out there because they were running and walking as swiftly as they could to get to that stadium. For a while there, just the roads were blocked off for about at least an hour as we were live on the air. We saw as cars were pulling up and waiting in a long line that was stopped around the school, and they couldn't get any closer. So parents just got out the car and started running to get to their kids, to find out if their kids were one of these victims. So we do not have any victim information just yet. Want to make that clear. They could be staff, personnel, they could be students. That has not been confirmed just yet, but we have an eye on that. We are waiting for that information as we speak. And to your point, Rick, you know, a lot of parents were able to communicate with their kids, and that's what makes what one woman told Chelsea Bimeforce so heartbreaking. She'd run up to her crying, asking Chelsea, our reporter, if she had any information about the victims because she could not get in touch with her son, who she said was a senior here. So you can imagine this shooting happens. You are barricaded away from the school. You can't get in touch with your kids. You believe there are victims. We now know there are victims. And all you have are questions. So that's why we've been live on air this whole time. We want to make sure you know if you have a loved one in this area, if you have a student, a staff member who works or attends or is ever near Apalachee High School, we wanted you to know what was happening there the moment it happened.
Want to say a word about law enforcement, because as we've been looking at this video that we have collected over the last couple of hours, we've seen a number of law enforcement from multiple agencies, as we've been saying, not just local, but state and federal law enforcement as well, wearing tactical gear, many of them armed. We saw a group of law enforcement officers walking to what looked like the front entryway of the building at one point early on, getting ready to enter into a building where they might not have known exactly what kind of threat they were going to face. And so the bravery on the part of these first responders, of these members of law enforcement that put their own lives on the line in order to keep us safe and our loved ones safe, it really just must be mentioned and should not go unnoticed as we see these pictures again and the students. And you can only imagine what it was like for these kids and what it will be like for these kids who were just starting a Wednesday morning at school when all of a sudden an evil thing happened, in the words of Sheriff Judd Smith of Barrow County. An evil thing when someone came in, that person in custody, we're told, and that there are multiple injuries. CBS News reporting that 2 people have died. The sheriff telling us in the brief press conference a few moments ago that they want to make sure they get this right, and that right now the priority is reuniting students with parents, or that's, I'm sorry, one of the priorities is reuniting parents and students, and that's a bit of a chaotic situation, as you can imagine. 1,900 students enrolled in the school. That's what we've been able to find out. And so that's a lot of kids and a lot of parents and loved ones who were trying to get them back together. And the sheriff asked that the media and the public be patient as they work to get more information, to conduct this investigation, to find out the answers to these questions that we all have, which of course is, who would do this? Why would they do this? Who was injured? How serious are those injuries? And if these reports turn out to be true, that there are 2 people killed, my goodness, who are they? What were they doing at the time? You know, having covered many, many school shootings, a lot of times the people who work closest to the front entryway are among the first victims because whoever it is that comes in through the front door usually comes in ready to do damage. And I remember covering this shooting in Parkland, covering the shooting at Sandy Hook years ago, that it was the front office staff, the principal at Sandy Hook, who was shot and killed. Now, we don't know exactly who was injured or who might have been killed here today. I'm just saying that a lot of times it is those who work closest to the front entrance of a school when there's a shooting like this who are among the first victims.
And what a shame that we have perspective on this from other school shootings that we've had in our country. But, you know, we all know at this point, the collective, all of us know how these things go right now. There are many different scenarios that could have played out. We do not know if the suspect who is in custody was a student, or if this was a stranger, or if this was an employee, or if this was a former student. These are the questions that we are waiting for right now. Just a couple hours left until we are expected to be briefed again by law enforcement. They gave a very brief press conference and essentially said, they know we are all waiting for information. We have been standing here live watching this happen with you for hours, waiting on information. Unfortunately, he says right now this scene is just so rapidly developing. He literally said they were finding new evidence by the minute. So there wasn't anything he could give us with concrete evidence that points to what happened here. So, you know, as we take a live look around the school, at one point it was very chaotic out there, and then at some point it shifted a bit to where you're seeing right now, where there wasn't a lot of commotion. Things seemed a bit calmer, albeit there's, you know, a lot of law enforcement presence still out there on the scene. But we don't know what's happening in the school right now. In the school, there are likely droves of law enforcement. GBI is on scene right now. FBI Atlanta is on scene right now. Multiple local law enforcement agencies, surrounding counties. We've had Atlanta and other cities say, hey, if you need any help, any assistance, we're here for you. Other school districts in our areas have said to parents, they put out a note saying, hey, we know you're watching this as well. We know you're wondering how safe your students are. And they assured parents that there are a lot of safety measures in place to prevent something so horrific. Unfortunately, somehow this has happened. And I think a lot of us have questions as to how.
We are also waiting to hear from the White House. We know that President Biden has been briefed on this. He has offered, of course, all federal resources to the teams on the ground. In fact, we have seen federal officers on the scene this morning wearing FBI-marked jackets. So we know that they're there, and we know that they will play a role in this investigation. We don't know which agency will take over the lead role. A lot of times that is something that is determined between the different agencies, depending on exactly what the crime is. And so we'll learn more about that, who will be the lead investigative agency here. But we are expecting to hear from President Biden, we are expecting to hear from the White House.
Yes.
We may or may not hear from the president himself, but the White House is expected to hold some type of a press briefing very soon. So, of course, we'll bring you that as well. We think about how long these investigations can take. I mean, I'll remind everybody that it was mid-July, almost 2 months ago now, when there was an assassination attempt on former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. And where one person was killed and several people were injured, including the former president himself. That investigation is still ongoing, and police have not been able to determine a motive in that case. Of course, the shooter in that instance was killed by law enforcement, snipers. So it's obviously the police were not able to talk with him to try to get more information on a potential motive. But again, it just gives you an idea of how long it takes sometimes to get concrete answers. We all want to know the answers immediately, but again, the sheriff said be patient, and that unfortunately is what we're going to have to be here because it could take a while until we learn the answers to all of the questions that we have right now.
Okay, now we're just getting some new information. As we've told you, we have many reporters on scene here and in our studio digging for answers, trying to get you the most updated information. We also have John Decker. He is here joining us with more information on the federal response. So, John, what do you know?
Well, the president has been briefed by his Homeland Security advisor. That was earlier today. We learned this through a pool report which went out about an hour or so ago. And the president is now meeting with his advisors and coordinating some sort of federal response. We also know, according to another pool report, that the vice president has also been briefed. There's no word as to whether or not the president will address the media. We know that the White House press briefing has been pushed back until after the 2 o'clock hour today, and perhaps we'll get some more information coming from the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre.
John, unfortunately, we have covered these situations too many times to count. and it is just unacceptable. And every time we hear from the president afterwards, and they talk about things that they would like to do, policies that they would like to put in place, legislation that they would like to introduce and get passed that might help to prevent something like this from happening again. But the sad reality is that no president has been able to come up with any kind of a magic solution to this. It just keeps happening, and it doesn't matter who's in the White House.
You're absolutely right about that. I remember being in the White House and having President Obama come out to address the press in the White House press briefing room after that shooting that occurred at Sandy Hook in Connecticut. And I thought, personally, that was the tipping point. That was the tipping point for having Congress come forward with some meaningful legislation or policy proposals that would certainly decrease the amount of these types of episodes from happening in the future. And it didn't happen then, and it hasn't happened since. And I think that's the really frustrating thing for any leader, whether you're talking about a Democrat like President Barack Obama, a Republican like President Trump in the last administration, or President Biden right now. We are likely to hear from the vice president a little bit later today. She's in New Hampshire today campaigning, but I am certain that she will address reporters, talk to reporters about what happened in Georgia earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to inject politics into this,
Right.
but obviously there is an election coming up, and we have two candidates who are running to be the next president of the United States. I would think that they would have to say something, right?
Well, certainly you would expect that from our leaders. And as it relates to the two candidates, I mentioned what the vice president is doing today, and I would certainly expect her to talk about this terrible tragedy happening earlier today, another one in Georgia.
John Decker, our White House correspondent.
A town hall prepared that will take place this evening in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's with Fox News, and certainly I would expect the interviewer there, the moderator of that event, Sean Hannity, to ask about that, if not having a question posed to the former president by those in the audience in Pennsylvania.
President Trump, former President Trump, was in office when the shooting in Parkland took place. And that was another scenario where you thought maybe something will be done. And in fact, there was some legislation that came from that awful tragedy. And former President Trump did hold, I remember, several meetings with the victims and different stakeholders in the Parkland shooting at the White House. And then something happened, right?
Well, yes, something did happen as it relates certainly to those meetings that you're referring to. The legislation that you may be referring to as it relates to guns and making certain that guns don't get in the hands of those who shouldn't have them, that is people with mental illness, was passed during the Biden administration. It was bipartisan legislation that passed. I have traveled with presidents, both with President Trump and with President Obama in the aftermath of these terrible tragedies, with President Obama down to Charleston, South Carolina. You remember that terrible tragedy that happened at the church there in Charleston. With former President Trump, I traveled with him out to Pittsburgh after that shooting that occurred at the synagogue in Pittsburgh. And they're just awful events for the communities involved, for sure. They're awful events also for the presidents that become sort of consolers in chief, grievers in chief in terms of helping the community get over these types of tragedies. And I would not be surprised if President Biden, in the aftermath of what happened today in Georgia, takes a trip down with the First Lady to Georgia to console that community.
I appreciate you correcting me, John. I've been looking up the information about that gun legislation, and President Biden, in fact, signed into law the first major gun safety legislation passed by Congress in nearly 30 years, and that happened after the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, where 19 children and 2 adults were killed. And it's unbelievable that all of these shootings, that we have a shorthand for them now. You talk about Uvalde, you talk about Parkland, you talk about Sandy Hook, you talk about the Pulse nightclub, and it really, now we're going to be talking about the shooting here in Barrow County, Georgia.
John Decker there for us. Thank you so much for your time.
Another tragedy for sure. And it's just so sad for the community, so sad for the families. You send your child off to school, and maybe in the back of your head you're thinking about this, but certainly when you're packing them off with lunch and expecting them back after maybe an athletic event in the afternoon, having dinner together, you just never expect these types of tragedies, but they're becoming all too normal in our country, and that's just an unfortunate thing for any family to go through.
I want to mention the shooting in Buffalo, New York, that happened 10 days before the Uvalde shooting, where 10 people were killed at a supermarket. And we know that that shooter had racist motivations. John, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll be checking back with you as we continue our coverage and wait for a response from the White House. We are, as John said, expecting to hear from someone at the White House. They've pushed back the daily briefing, so we'll see exactly what happens from that.
So right now you're looking at a video from earlier today. Again, this is Apalachee High School in Barrow County, where there has been a shooting at the school. We're told gunshots began ringing out around 9:30 in the morning. That's when police got the call about an active shooter. We have several reporters on the ground to bring you up-to-date information as we get it. One of them is Adam Murphy. Adam has been there for quite some time now. Adam, what can you tell us?
Well, hey guys, I have an update for you. I did notice several students with their parents leaving the football stadium, so we had an opportunity to catch up with some of these parents and students and find out a little bit more about what was occurring this morning. And you know, students were just saying it was one of those things where they were in their class, it was a normal day, and then all of a sudden they heard the gunfire in the hallway. Shortly thereafter, all of the classrooms went into a lockdown mode. They have monitors in the classrooms, and it alerts them immediately that, you know, they are in a lockdown mode and that they should get under their desks or in the corner. The lights are usually turned off. I've also learned, after speaking with some of the students, at least two of them that I spoke to, I did ask if they had any metal detectors at this school, and the answer I got from two students was no. So it doesn't appear that there were any metal detectors at the entryway or entrances to the school. A lot of the students telling me it was a very scary and frantic time. Soon after the gunfire, they said that police arrived and were banging on some of the classroom doors and trying to gain access, etc., to some of the rooms to make sure the students were safe. I was also being told that some of the students were changing classes, so there may have been students in the hallway at the time the gunfire started. So a very terrifying moment for many of these students and their parents. Those parents that I did have an opportunity to speak with said they were just so thankful and grateful and blessed. They felt very blessed that their children were safe and sound and in their arms again. They said there were some parents that weren't so lucky. Many of the parents and students talking about multiple injuries. Again, we don't know how many, and you may recall earlier this afternoon, about a half an hour or so ago, Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith held a news briefing, provided very little information, but we want to provide you with one comment he made after the call came in just after 9:30 this morning that there was an active shooter at Apalachee High School in Winder. This is what Sheriff Judd Smith had to say about the incident.
I have asked the assistance of the GBI and the agencies here behind me today, and there are multiple agencies that responded this morning to help us and help the sheriff's office. We do have a suspect in custody, and we are asking for your patience as the media to please let us get the facts that we need to make sure we get this right.
That is one thing the sheriff made very clear during his news briefing outside the school about a half an hour ago. They're taking this thing slowly because it's very fluid, ever changing. Those were words used by Sheriff Smith as well, and they want to make sure all of their information is in a row, in line, and accurate before they release any other details. The sheriff would not confirm any information about those that were wounded or any fatalities. He said there were multiple injuries and would not really answer any other questions beyond that, only telling us that they would try to provide another update around 4 o'clock this afternoon. So we will continue to stay on scene here, and as we gather new details, we will share it and you'll be the first to know about it.
All right.
Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Adam. I want to welcome my colleague Tracy Hutchins. And Tracy, as we continue our coverage now, we are now able to report that there are 4 dead and multiple hurt. So we're getting some clarification. I mentioned a lot of times the initial reports in situations like this end up not being correct. And so we're staying with this, and obviously now we are able to report that there have been 4 people killed today and multiple people hurt in a shooting at Apalachee High School.
Yeah, and I think so many viewers out there, just like me, kind of, start their day with this news, to see this and to see gun violence impact our schools once again. In watching the coverage that you and Lana were doing, I hearken back to Columbine. I know you were working during Columbine. Yeah. I certainly was too. And to think that this is now a part of our daily lives, that our children have to live in fear of that we as parents have to worry about getting that call that your child's school is on lockdown on this day because there is an active shooter inside. And certainly that's been the case for Apalachee High School and the surrounding school. There's an elementary school nearby, correct? Right. And in Barrow County, basically putting all the schools on lockdown as a precautionary measure. But just what a dark day in Metro Atlanta and across Georgia. And certainly Georgia Governor Kemp saying he's directing all available resources there to the school. The investigation fluid at this moment. And again, once again, to recap for you, we've been on the air for the last few hours watching this all unfold, just as you have as well. This is all coming in as new information for us, and we are giving it back to you. 1 person in custody right now, 4 dead, multiple injured, as authorities responded to Apalachee High School earlier this morning, just after 9:30, for an active shooter call. And a lot of the students evacuated, taken to the field there, taken to the bleachers, to the gym area, waiting to be reunited with their parents. And so many anxious parents running to that school, driving to that school, just hoping and praying that their child is okay, their child's classmates are okay. At this hour, Rick, we unfortunately know that there are some families that will be directly impacted by this.
Richard Woods is the state school superintendent overseeing schools across the state of Georgia. We do have a statement from the state school superintendent, Woods. I'm devastated by the news of the tragic shooting at Apalachee High School today. My heart and prayers are with the families and loved ones of those affected and the entire Barrow County community. This is an unimaginable loss for Barrow and for our entire educational community across the state. And so we're getting reaction from all corners of the state of Georgia and beyond. And we are waiting to hear from the White House. We're expecting a press briefing from the White House at some point coming up soon. We don't know exactly when. And we've talked about the sheriff, Judd Smith. He has promised another update at 4 p.m., so a little under 2 hours from now, when we are expecting to learn some more information from the sheriff. But we are going with our trusted law enforcement sources and reporting now that 4 people have been killed in this shooting today and multiple people have been injured. As we take a look at video, this is from earlier today. One of the injured being flown away from the scene in an air medevac chopper that was brought in. We saw that person as they were put onto the helicopter and flown away. Then the helicopter flew back from Grady Memorial Hospital. We did not see any other patients, though, put on it.
All right, right now we want to head out to that area right now near Apalachee High School, where our Chelsea Beimfor is not far from that area. And Chelsea, have you been able to see parents reunite with their students?
Yeah, this is where we've been most of the day. It's Tom Miller Road here, about a mile from the high school, where students and, parents have been having to park up a hill back this way and then walk to get their students. So you can see some of them now coming this way up the hill back to their cars. The traffic is very congested down there with all of the law enforcement and the hundreds of parents that are picking up their children at this hour. So again, you can see several of them making their way this way down the street. We did just speak to a mother and daughter, a sophomore named Melanie. She described what happened this morning when she was in class. She said the code red drill announcement came on, or excuse me, not a drill, but code red announcement came on over the loudspeaker, and then she said a red light began flashing. We've actually spoken to several students who say that when they've done these drills, that red light has never come on before during the drill. So that's when they knew this had to be real today. They said, it was very alarming. Melanie described for us, she said, our teacher got us into the corner. We crouched down, we turned the lights off, and she said, I had cell phone service and not many of my other classmates did. So she said, I was passing my phone around, having my classmates text their parents and let them know that they were okay. She said, of course, she texted her own mother. Her mom said she was at work in Lawrenceville. Here's some more students making their way back to their parents' cars right now. Melanie was telling us that when she texted her mother responded right away and said, I'm coming to get you. She was in Lawrenceville. She said it took her a long time to get here and fight through all this traffic. And then she said, of course, when she got to the school, it was just chaos. Chaos. There were students everywhere and parents everywhere. She said she knew Melanie was somewhere on the football field. And when she got there, she said there was a giant line of parents waiting to be reunited. She knew her daughter was okay, but she said, as soon as I heard her voice and got to give her a hug, she said, I'm just so thankful that I get to do that tonight. It's likely that other parents will not be able to say the same thing. So it's been a very emotional day out here as we continue to speak to some of these parents and students that have been reunited and are finally getting to make their way home.
Yeah, your heart just drops when you hear stories like that. And Chelsea, I know that's impacting you, certainly talking to those parents there and being so close to this situation right now. We do want to recap for you and give you the very latest information. This is according to our partners at CNN. They have given us this information: 4 dead, multiple people hurt, 1 person in custody. We did confirm that with the Barrow County Sheriff's Office earlier this afternoon. The Barrow County Sheriff's Office, though, not confirming the extent of any deaths or injuries at the school. They just want to make sure they get the information correct and right. We do expect to hear from them later this afternoon. And this is garnering national attention. Of course, we are waiting to hear from President Biden from the White House about this school shooting and possibly some other presidential candidates as well. And Attorney General Merrick Garland actually already addressed the school shooting at Apalachee High School just a moments ago during a news conference. He says the Justice Department stands ready to provide any resources in the Winder community following this deadly shooting, and that he is devastated for the families who've been impacted by this terrible tragedy. And again, the Justice Department stands ready to provide the resources needed to support the community in the days ahead. And it's important to note, when something like this happens to a community, it's not just a day of event. We may not be necessarily covering it in full in the days after, but for so many in the community, the students, the parents, the faculty members, law enforcement as well, they have to deal with the ripple effects, with the aftermath of all of this. These students who possibly lost a classmate or possibly lost someone else there at school, they have to deal with that. And once they are able to go back to school, possibly seeing that person not there anymore.
Yeah. Grief counselors are always brought in situations like this, and they will be needed at this school. And as I was reading the statement from Attorney General Garland, he says the Justice Department stands ready to provide any resources or support that the Winder community needs in the days ahead. And just to hear the name Winder, a local town here in Metro Atlanta, spoken of by the Attorney General in the context of a school shooting, a mass shooting here. This is officially classified now with with those numbers as a mass shooting at Apalachee High School in Winder. It is just stunning. It takes your breath away to hear, to just have our community now be a part of this this club that nobody wants to be a part of. These kids now, these faculty members will carry this with them for the rest of their lives. And I know from having interviewed students who survived other school shootings that they're never the same. This is something that they carry with them and will forever. We heard from Sheriff Judd Smith a little while ago, and I think it just bears repeating, because we've talked about the fact that we don't have a lot of information. We have a lot more questions than we do answers at this point. He begged for patience. He said that he's going to need the media and the public to be patient because of all the work that they have ahead. He said that this was an evil thing that happened, and that the first call came in at 9:30 of an active shooter. He said that it's still a fluid investigation, but he did confirm that a suspect is in custody. We don't know who that person is, what relation or tie, if any, they have to Apalachee High School, and that one of the main goals now was reuniting parents and students. And we've seen students gathered at the football field on the campus, and we've seen parents walking from their cars, having to park in some cases up to a mile away, and then walking to the campus to be reunited with their children.
And Rick, this isn't just a local tragedy. This is a national tragedy for our country. Again, when we talk about school shootings, and we mentioned Attorney General Merrick Garland addressing the nation earlier, let's listen to what he said.
We are still gathering information, but the FBI and ATF are on the scene, working with state, local, and federal partners. I'm devastated for the families who have been affected by this terrible tragedy. The Justice Department stands ready to provide any resources or support that the Winder community needs in the days ahead.
Again, that U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland addressing the shooting, the active shooter situation there in Winder, Georgia, happening in Barrow County at Apalachee High School. And just to give you an update on the information we've learned through our partners at CNN, they are reporting 4 dead, and we